It was kind of a dream to play esports.
Hello and welcome to the Blade and Soul Europe.
I wanted to compete in Korea. That was like my goal, in top of EU. And then I achieved that, and it was really exciting to be there.
To be honest, we didn't expect to win regionals. We were like, yo, we can actually do this.
That's what I mean, 10 out of being 10.
And it motivated us, and we like kept going, and we wanted to prove that we can stand our ground against people, right?
I just told myself I will be there one day. Looking up to good players in EU, I got better myself, got into the community and helped each other out, improved over time.
You learn more from a loss than from a win. Play to improve, not to win.
Get good, make a team, and have a great time with us.
It's a great experience.
To every player that has come this far, I have seen your commitment. I have seen your sacrifices. All of this. This is for you.
Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of the Europe first preliminary for the Blade and Soul World Championship Qualification Tournament. My name is Brunch and joining me is once again the man with the most fabulous hair out here in the biz, Barney. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm currently phasing through reality a little bit, but I'm sure that's fine. I'm just so excited for the matches today, you know? There were some great things yesterday, weren't there?
I mean, just to briefly go over the tournament format, for those of you who might not be too familiar with how things are working, we will be having sets of 4 up until the respective 2 finals, where the teams will duke it out for those 2 spots in a set 8 format, as you can see right now on your screen. And more importantly, what all these teams are fighting for is a chance at representing Europe in the World Championship. But first, of course, if they do make it in the winners bracket finals and losers bracket finals respectively, they will get a spot secured for the final tournament that will be going on in Leicester on August 26th. Of course, if you're one of those teams that participated and didn't quite get to secure yourself a spot right now, there's going to be a second preliminary tournament during August 3rd to 4th. But Barney, for those of them, these viewers that might have not watched yesterday, why don't you give them a quick rundown of what happened?
Well, there were such interesting things, such interesting phenomenons, such as Brunch was phasing in and out of reality as well. I was attacked by a killer bug, not clickbait, and I did an Australian accent so bad that the Victorian government probably is now, well, putting me on a no-fly list. But other than that, we saw some great performances from the teams in Team well, the ones that make it through that we're going to see today as well. Team Buy, No Fake, Goblin Spiders, or as Ares prefers, Goblin Spedos, Papiano, $20 is $20, and of course, Bad Intentions. And commiserations to all those teams that have not made it through to today's matches. However, as previously stated, there will be another chance on the 3rd and 4th of August.
And while there were some surprising results, especially since, okay, yes, a lot of these players in the winners bracket are veterans. They have been in the scene for a while. You definitely know those names, or should know most of those names by now. They are still new rosters, some of them under different names, such as Goblin Spiders, as you said, for Ares' team. But over in the first series of the day, which will be Team Buy versus No Fake, the interesting thing is, Colorize coming in with this team, especially during Rumble, surprised a lot of people. They are running what is considered, in a sense, the god composition in the current meta, especially if you look at the Korean scene. You saw, even if you caught up with the tournament that happened today, actually, where GC Busan Red had some surprising results with the same type of composition: the Destroyer, the Gunslinger, and the Warlock. It's a very well-rounded composition, right? And if you missed out on that tournament as well, I would recommend at the very least checking out the last 1v1, one of the most hype comebacks pulled off by Sung Jun Jin Choi, for sure. But going more importantly into this matchup, the one thing I really want to highlight, alongside the fact that while Colorize was only a sub last year during the World Tournament Series, where he came into the regionals and managed to win with Bad Intentions, now coming in this year with his own team. The one thing between these 2 teams in particular, Barney, that I'm interested in is Crimzia versus Ace 5, those gunslingers.
Indeed. Ace 5 also quite new, at least on the Gunslinger. We saw him previously in the Rumble in the Realm, and where he just completely, I don't know, he showed himself to be one of the most competent players out there. And the fact that yesterday's performance on the post-nerf Gunslinger is still just so amazing. It was a joy to watch him play, especially using that shadow build, which has now actually kind of come into a bit more viability ever since the fire build was changed a little bit. And of course, Crimzia, yesterday's performance as well was such that I even compared him to the likes of Ace 5. Now we actually get to see them go up against each other in that 3 versus 3, probably. I really, really want to see which one of these is the better gunslinger, but there are so many other factors at play, especially as you mentioned with Colorized. He's shown himself to be a fantastic, the best teammate, a true bro, you know? He just comes in every time you need him. Don't worry, I got you, fam. I'll save you, and I'll deal damage while I'm at it. I can only hope that Adarian manages to match that level of commitment so that he can also help Team No Fake to go up against Team Buy.
And at the very least, for Team No Fake, the one thing that I really liked was the likes of Queen Fairy. Some of you may also know him as True Sedator, especially if you've fought him on ladder a bunch of times by now. He has definitely shown why he is one of the potential top assassins. Of course, that is still to be contested. Lukey pulling some massive punches yesterday in particular. I mean, with a crazy comeback himself, but still, in this matchup, that could be one of the more important things to note in terms of these two teams in particular. Of course, so we will start things off with a 1v1, and Barney, it's going to be Colorized versus Crimzia, Gunslinger versus Destroyer. And while we know in the current patch, in the current state of the game, the Destroyers are pretty favored in most scenarios, one would say, but what about this matchup?
It's a little bit strange. I personally think that Destroyer, although it has a very favorable matchup against pretty much every other class in the game at the moment, maybe Soulfighter actually has an edge after its recent buff, but Gunslinger is probably the other one that is really, really good at dealing with Destroyers, especially should it occur, the Shadow build Tombstone actually is able to inflict a charge disable. So if Colorize gets hit by that, it's going to be very, very difficult to open Crimzia up to any attacks, leaving him only with the drag, and that's a bit unreliable when used at maximum range. We'll have to see how things play out right now.
As it will be indeed the first round of the day. Crimzia versus Colorize. Already Colorize putting up the pressure, forcing out the tab escape out of Crimzia. Things looking very good for Team Buy already with such an explosive start. The Skystone was set up, so maybe finally Crimzia can find his footing and dish out some damage, have those wires to make sure he disengages on time. Now with the Alpha Call up as well, that could be a window of opportunity, but he gets stunned up, gets that escape still with the use of it, and ooh, dodges the re-engage by using that Skystone.
Yeah, that was a very, very timely Skystone there to avoid the Blitz. If he got caught by that, it would have been very, very bad. Now onto the second Skystone. Getting some good damage off, but he has to avoid the Scorching Strike that Colorized has. Instead, opting for a knockdown. And oh, the Godbreak knee out of nowhere. Instantaneous gap closer. He's going to be in quite a bit of trouble here, but he does still have his escape seal. He'll be forced to use it. Doesn't have Alpha Call. He needs to be very careful now.
Oh, and it was such a commanding position for Colorize as well, since he had that Ember Stomp to make sure he stays alive, and now reconnecting was looking good, but oh, Crimzia managing to buy himself quite a bit of time, has that escape option for a while with the use of that Alpha Call and the Skystone. Colorize, though, still having the use of Gust, should be able to stay safe for now, even healing back up quite a bit. Crimzia down to 31%, tries to be cheeky with a potential re-engage. We'll use that instead to build up a little bit of distance, but ooh, nice call there by Crimzia to make sure he just keeps Colorize at bay, not really allowing him to do anything, and as a result, Gus will be expended. Persistent will come back up in 20 seconds, but maybe Crimzia finally would turn the tide, especially now with the Tombstone, but Ember Stomp is there. This is gonna be a close call, but with the re-engage, the escape is still available. Doesn't get the daze or anything though, as the spin was there.
Yes, Colorize now buying himself some time, healing up with the Stone Shield. Crimsy, of course, feeling a little bit of pressure, does have the Alpha Call. However, if he doesn't use the second wind within 8 seconds, it's essentially wasted.
No.
But now the Wallbang guaranteeing some good damage here. Crimsy probably has the damage advantage, but he needs to be careful. The Skystone is ready for him. Colorize trying to avoid as much damage as he possibly can, but the evasiveness of the Gunslinger is just so high. He still has Dash Rise, so he gets pulled out again! If Colorize could actually end it right here, however, the second wind comes up just in the nick of time. This is so tense, last 30 seconds.
Ooh, as you said, if this goes to damage, this should favor the Gunslinger. As you said, 23 seconds now left. Health pool's relatively similar, but definitely Colorize being the one who healed up a lot more, considering what the Destroyer has in his kit, but gets the stun now, forcing out that escape. Gus is still available, but the damage is there, 30%. Typhoon used as well, 7 seconds. Crimsia playing it safe, gets a knockdown. Can he land the kill? He is at 4%, he gets it, doesn't need the score. He's gonna do it still in style, but that was a pretty close call. Colorize keeping it competitive, especially at the start, being in somewhat of a commanding spot, but Crimsia, as we talked about yesterday, now definitely stepping it up big time in this tournament.
Oh, absolutely. That was, I have to commend just the skill of both the players here, but especially Crimsia towards the end there. Not having the unblockable unload anymore is a massive disadvantage against a lot of classes now. However, he timed it so perfectly against, in between all the hurricane spins of Colorize. Every single time without fail, Colorize going for a gap closer. Let's get some free damage on him. He might catch me, but I have Alpha Call. So it's not a problem for me at all. He managed to play around his cooldowns so well. And as I mentioned earlier, the evasiveness of the Gunslinger is just so high. He made sure to always keep at least one dash wire for when he needed it most. And he actually never needed that spare dash wire because he had all his other cooldowns available for him. Very well played.
Just very well played, as you said. And the more interesting thing, especially for you fans of the Gunners out there, or Gunslingers rather, we will see Ace 5, the other top Gunslinger in the EU scene, come up next in the next 1v1 matchup, this time versus Queen Fairy on the Assassin. So a different type of matchup, Barney, but still considering the fact that we didn't saw Shadow that time around, is there any reason for us to see Shadow versus the or in this matchup instead?
Well, I think Shadow probably has most of its merits against classes that can't really deal with being charge disabled. The Tombstone, of course, having that ability and also reducing your movement speed just adds to the evasiveness of the Gunslinger even more. However, its true merits are probably within the 3 versus 3 matchup with the AoE Undertaker. So it's most likely just going to be fire, and it is.
As the round will start, we'll see whether or not Ace 5 can equalize things up for his team, and it seems like already Queen Fairy, where's his HP, as he's already down to 46%. That is exactly why Gunslingers are so lethal. No defensive options left for the Assassin here, so if he gets caught up once again, that might just be it. Tombstone still at the ready for Ace 5, so now using that Skystone again. If he finds one more CC, that might be it, and already popping that Tombstone maybe preemptively will not really amount to anything. And at this point, Queen Fairy is more than happy to just stall for time until his defensive options are back up.
Yes, very masterfully played there by Ace 5. Oh, catching him out again with that very quick stun, forcing out a stealth. Lotus will be up in 7 seconds. However, if he gets caught out again, Crossfire might just be enough to do him in without him being able to use that. Ace 5, of course, masterfully avoiding all the webbing options by immediately using his escape. He'll probably do much the same here, but instead he actually opts to take a little bit of damage, sees the Poison Breath, and decides to nope out of there. Alpha Call is up. He might have to use it already. If he gets caught out a second time, it's going to be very bad. However, he manages to do a quick stun onto Queen Fairy beforehand, launching him into the air. The Crossfire's going to be enough. Wow! The instantaneous burst of the Gunslinger is just so high. You cannot afford to make mistakes against the Gunslinger.
Talk about an explosive start for the day. I mean, both Gunslingers showing up big time for their respective teams. Now up 1-1. definitely making this series very competitive, exactly what we would have expect, especially at this point in the bracket. Next up will be the free versus free setup instead, and you could argue that this is where Team Buys would potentially be even stronger.
Yeah, definitely. With the team composition that they have available to them, it's going to be really, really frightening to go up against it. As you mentioned, it is supposedly the current most meta thing that even the Koreans are doing, because they just realize the sheer power that you can bring with this ludicrous composition. The save of the Destroyer, the insane utility and damage of the Warlock, and of course, just the amazing stall potential of the Gunslinger, not to mention its damage, which is amplified even further if you manage to play your cards right, get the area of effect skills on multiple opponents. It's mayhem to try and go up against a well-coordinated team with this particular team composition. And although No Fake is pretty close, they're missing the Warlock in favor of the Assassin, which, although Assassin is very good, and the only class that wasn't actually touched at all in the last balance patch, they're not that good as a Warlock. So I would definitely prefer to have the reset potential that coming in with the time distortion and having the really reliable aerial damage. However, the one thing, the wildcard in this instance is that blue buff coming in from the side of Queen Fairy. If he manages to play his cards right, he can completely demolish someone from Team Buy, especially if Crimzier is on the field during that time.
And I think there is, at the very least, a thing to be said here about Team No Fake's composition and the Assassin in general. Usually, in most meta compositions, if you will, yes, you would prefer the Warlock, but you would slot in that Assassin instead of a Gunslinger, especially traditionally. We've seen last year that was exactly the composition to have. Now a little bit more favor towards the Gunslinger side of things, but Assassin definitely still up there, I would say. Just a different take on it this time around. Without having that Warlock is not going to give you the same amount of safety, as you said, with the potential of a reset coming in with the time distortion. We've seen, especially with teams like Bad Intentions, just how they love using Tenna alongside Ryuki to make sure they completely reset and allow Ryuki to stall even further if necessary. So we'll see how they're going to go ahead and use these respective compositions to their fullest. We all know what Colorize can really do to be, as he said, that bro for the team to come in with the saves. And not only does he do that very timely, he does it in a very intelligent manner where they don't overcommit resources, because in the tag setup, one thing to note, especially if you're newer to the PvP scene, is the fact that you can't really overcommit in terms of those assists and using those tag-ins and tag-outs. Those interference chances, while yes, they do get refunded somewhat over time, is just way too long of a time, and making sure you force out more of those respective resources out of the enemy team can be really big.
Yes, indeed. Although the comparison between Colorize and Idarian is very interesting, because Idarian doesn't prefer to do it in a defensive way. That's more the last thing that he does before he goes out of an assist. He wants to go in, and he wants to go in hard. He wants to just do as much damage as he possibly can, especially since Fury and Shadow build is seemingly more and more common these days. The execute cast speed buff was just really good, and the burst damage that can come out of it can certainly help against that Warlock.
And I think that's also probably a strength of this composition. They need to play aggressive since they don't have that safety net in the Warlock pick. But now, as the round will start, it's going to be Ace-5 versus Queen Fairy in the opener. And we've seen how this matchup went in this straight-up 1v1. But so far, Queen Fairy doing definitely a better job in terms of making sure he keeps his defensives up. He dodges most of what Ace-5 has thrown his way. Still nothing really too big committed on either side. Finally, we do see the Warlock assist come in just for those resets. So Team Buy playing defensive, playing it safe for now.
Yeah, not too much happening there. He does get guard broken, and the assist coming in from the side of Idarian. But Ace-5 just on it so well. Immediately launches him into the air and denies him that entire attempt. Now getting some good damage onto Queen Fairy decides to tag out, doesn't want to get caught by that. Crimzia does much the same to Colorize as he comes in, but he does manage to get some good damage off before he comes out. Already down to just under 60%. Crimzia is going to have to play their cards very, very well in this mirror match, which is just very, very daunting. Ace-5 in a very commanding position. Look at how far he retreats back when he needs to. However, he did just get guard broken. He needs to be very careful against Queen Fairy. A swap could be devastating.
Oh, but nice read coming in from Ace-5. Really catching his opponent off guard for now, even forcing him to disengage. He's going to run away. We did see a lot of just assists being committed there from the side of No Fake. So overall, things will be looking better for Team Bai looking forward, as Ace-5 is still safe, has 4 more seconds left in the arena until he's forced to go out. And coming up next, it will be Mew for Team Bai, looking to catch his opponent. It's not really going to happen, as the assist did come through, but with the use of that Bastion, he's going to stay safe, but now finally gets stunned up, and a lot of damage, especially with the Poison Breath cast going off. Queen Fairy will be able to get a lot of resources out of Bai, but now with the leech, with the aerial, this could be very dangerous, but no. Ooh, Adarian this time playing it safe instead, coming in with the assist with that Stone Shield and Iron Plating.
That was definitely necessary. He helped to avoid the entire time distortion duration. That aerial would have certainly killed his teammate had he not intervened. So a very good decision on his part. Warlock versus Gunslinger, it's pretty rough, so he decides to tag out into Ace-5, who gets a good chunk of damage upon re-entry. Tombstone coming out from both players now, and the Alpha Call from Ace-5. Needs to be very, very careful here. Both Alpha Calls used now. It's such a big back and forth. But at last, Crimzia decides, you know what, let's not do this.
And this is good coming out of Team No Fake, because Adarian doesn't have those assists left any longer. He can tag out, however. But this is, again, what I was talking about. Look at those tag-ins and the assists left for both sides. Team Bai having a definite advantage for now, and the longer this goes on, they're going to keep that momentum rolling their way, as Ace-5 still able to start for such a long time, even able to dish out quite a bit of damage, forces another assist coming out from the other side. He takes quite a bit of damage for his troubles. Could have been pretty dangerous, but does have those wires and just nopes out of that situation.
Goodness me, the amount of evasive potential you have there. Darian, preemptive persistence there to avoid Colorize's assault. Actually knocks him out of Ember Stomp before it applies its buff, so very, very timely there. However, Colorize will still be able to sit there against an assassin. It's a bit annoying, but he should be fine, especially if he gets the deflect. Oh no! And a ground counter. This is disastrous for Queen Fairy.
You're gone.
Oh no, the crossfire is there to finish the deal.
Unfortunate there for Team No Fake and Queen Fairy, but it's not over yet. Of course, we know how lethal the side of No Fake could be, but this is again where it really is gonna bite them, because they don't have those precious tag outs or even the assists available for themselves. But we'll see in terms of these 1v1 matchups. Can Adarian right now be the hero for Team No Fake, as Colorize is still in it? Can also tag out the assist, could come through the Typhoon into the wall, but we'll see Adarian still not able to do too much to Ace-5 for now. Will be popping that persistent, doesn't have any other defensive options, so now desperately trying to close that gap, make something happen instead, but he's on a ticking time bomb now, as we will see the aerial connect, and that's it. Adarian is out of the picture as well. Only Crimzia left for Team No Fake.
And that's that Warlock damage that we've been talking about. It's just so unexpected. It comes out from nowhere. Now Ace-5 just having a convincing showing. Alpha Call as well. Onto Crimzia. Colorize is actually now, he knows that he can afford to be aggressive. Launch into the air. The crossfire should surely seal this deal. Doesn't even need it. Oof. Convincing performance by Team Bai there.
And man, what a showing as well. As said, this is the problem you really face against a team like Team No Bai with that particular composition. You've seen how aggressive the side of No Fake really had to be to make any maneuvers go their way, but wasn't the case. Team Bai performed exceptionally well, and with that, we congratulate them, as they are one step closer to making, or rather securing themselves that spot for the finals that will go on in Leicester at the ESL UK Studios. So congratulations to them. Still well played by Team No Fake, I gotta say, coming in as a newer setup team. Of course, Queen Fairy or Trucidator has been in the PvP scene for quite a while, of course, as an example, but still not as much in terms of the actual competitive tournament scene. So still congratulations to them. They still have a shot in this particular tournament in the losers bracket, so they're not out of it just yet. But man, what a performance by Team Bai.
Oh yeah, I definitely have to commend Crimsia for managing to stay alive for so long and having such a good performance overall, especially against Colorized, someone that we have talked about at length on just why he is so formidable. When it comes to the 3 versus 3, though, the unfortunate thing is that they were kind of a newer team, unfortunately for them. So it was a bit daunting for them to go up against a more rounded team from the likes of Team Bai, who had an incredible performance during Rumble in the Realm. I really want to see more of Team No Fake. I really do wish them the best because their players are really quite good. I would probably maybe want to see Darian be a bit more defensive, because when he was defensive in that 3 versus 3, it saved his teammate's life. That is the sort of play that keeps you in the game longer, that prolongs your chances of success. And that is exactly what I wanted to see from him. So I'm very pleased he managed to do that.
And if you were excited to watch Team Bai perform, definitely make sure you stay tuned, because later, as you can see right now on the bracket, they'll be going into the set 8 formats to decide whether or not they can make it in the winners bracket to secure themselves that spot. Remember, once we do get to those winner bracket and loser bracket finals, that is when we move on to the set 8 format, where we'll see a lot more rounds out of these guys. So definitely something you want to look out for, as most of the regular matches will keep that 4-set format, of course, only during those finals for those secure spots for the final tournament in August will be that set 8. And looking forward to the next matchup, Barney, which is going to be the second matchup of the day and of the winners bracket. It's going to be 2 very interesting teams. On one side, you have Goblin Spiders. We all should know by now. They've gone through different variations of their name, but it is PF, Arias, and Zappish. And I think a lot of people, especially after yesterday, will be really looking forward to see what Papiano can do versus them with Zayn on that Blade Master Lukey, who has shown very good performance on the Destroyer, but we all know how good he is on that Blade Master as well. And of course, the Italian trackpad legend himself, Mr. Fragola.
Yeah, I still can't believe back at the EU regionals last year, when we saw him, we thought, oh, this is, it's just, we didn't think that he was going to come up with, I don't want a mouse, actually. Can you give me a trackpad instead? And everyone was just like, I'm sorry, what? You want a trackpad? And then he proceeded to just wipe the floor with people on a trackpad. Oh, and he also taught us how to say his name correctly. It's not Fragola, it's Fragola. It's Fragola. So, other than that, though, he's an amazing player. He has shown some amazing prowess on that Warlock, despite the assumed limitations of a trackpad, it seems. And the team as well, as you say, Zayn yesterday, the performance there was just staggering. I absolutely want to see more from that. He's been hinting at going for a bit of a cheesy strategy, which is the Blade Master wallbang. It's a little known fact, but if you flock of blades someone at the wall, they get wallbanged. It's doable. I don't think you should go for that, Zayn. I don't think you should be actively searching for that. But if you get it off, I'll scream.
We'll see if that's going to happen. But first off, interestingly enough, for the first 1v1 of the series, it's going to be Lukey on the Destroyer versus Zappish on the Kung Fu Master. So very explosive matchup coming our way from the get-go. We'll see if Zappish can do those amazing flying slams to open things up again, as he does. Just Zappish things. But Typhoon is the opener of choice here for Lukey, staying safe for now. Ooh, tries to catch off his opponent with a crowd control, but will not manage to do so. We're still having that blitz available, I believe, but dodges it too. Zappish on point right now, as he will be able to get the days off. Waits it out patiently, but we'll see that persistence now being popped by Lukey. So he wants to still find that opening, but Second wind also popped and returned by Zappish means that he could be in big trouble, especially now that he got popped by the daze. The follow-up is good. Zappish might go down. We'll see how long Lukey can keep this pain train rolling.
Oh, the knee!
Such a good job. The knee as well. 26% gets the grab. And finally, some breathing room for Zappish.
Oh, he desperately needed that. Unfortunately, he tried to hold on to the reflex roll as long as he could, but he waited a bit too long. Gets a great tech chase with that Firestorm kick. This is big trouble. Searing Palm is still available for him. There is used. And the Rising Dragon. Such huge damage into the
3 seconds.
And the falling. Wow. Wow. What a comeback.
I mean, I think you like Zappish, right, Barney? You have been known
I don't know
to,
what you're talking about. He's all right, I guess.
He's okay, yeah. Just showing us why he is, you know, he kind of claimed the title in a sense during the last year's World Series, where he won the showmanship matchup in that Kung Fu Master v Kung Fu Master and proved himself to be arguably the #1 Kung Fu Master in the world. Yes, so showing us why exactly when he keeps his composure and plays the top of his game, he knows, okay, he had persistence, popped it, it's gonna be on cooldown. Gust, as we've seen, barely came back, but it was during the aerial, and you cannot use Gust during aerial, so that was it.
Yeah, although Lukey is known for doing that on his Blade Master, sadly the same cannot be said for his Destroyer. It was a very, very tense matchup, and had Lukey not backstepped away after using the Destroyer knee, I am full certain that Zappish would have actually died there. But for some reason, maybe Lukey kind of misread the timings on the cooldowns, but otherwise he played that incredibly well. It was very, very dominant for the most part, but Zappish afterwards, the tech chase with the Firestorm kick was definitely the thing that solidified that victory. If he had missed that, Gust would have been back up soon enough, and second wind was still on cooldown for Zappish. It would have been a very, very rough spot to be in.
And now for the next 1v1, it will be Zay versus Pieb. It's going to be another very interesting matchup. Of course, Blade Master versus Blade Dancer. We'll be curious to see whether or not Team Papiano can equalize this one right now as Goblin Spiders take the lead 1-0.
Yes, and starting off here, we'll have to wait and see which opener they'll favor. They both have more or less the same ones, but there is the Soaring Falcon into the Divine Retribution. Such a fantastic start, already forcing an escape out of Zay, but that huge chunk of damage from the Searing Slash, kind of equalizing the playing field a little bit. Both escapes down for both of them. There's the Flock of Blades. He's looking for an opening, but the backstep into Dual Strike. This man is so flashy. Pardon the pun, but goodness me! He's gonna survive on a small amount of health. He needs to play this very carefully, but the Phantom Grip is there. No Flock of Blades.
I mean, yeah, such a insane performance, really. Both these players trying to play it very aggressively, and in the end, favoring Pieb this time around. I mean, we knew that once he started competing in the tournament scene, he's going to be one of the Blade Dancers to look out for. And now, as he had a lot more experience too, he's definitely the one you don't want to mess around with.
Definitely. With the way that he's shown himself to be ever since he appeared on the scene at last during the Battle Brawl, it was very, very good. He showed why he's such a dominant player, because he pulls off things. And speaking to him in real life as well was just, it's such a strange thing for us to sit here and be like, that was amazing, that was an incredible play. It takes a lot of skill to pull that off, and he's just like, yeah, just do that normally. It's standard stuff, really. I don't know why you're so like uptight about it. It's just Blade Dancer. Come on.
Well, it's still such an insane performance because his timings were on point. Everything about his gameplay there was exceptional. So with that victory, it's going to be up 2-0 in favor of Goblin Spiders. And the problem for Papiano is, even if they win the next 3 versus 3 matchup, they still need to win another 1v1. So it's going to be insane. I mean, as you said, even in terms of his first land performance, he did so well during that battle brawl. So Now, coming into this 3 versus 3, we know that Goblin Spiders does have the synergy down. From what we've seen yesterday, Papiano seems to be on the same level, but is it going to be enough to equalize the series really here, Barton?
Well, the 3 versus 3 is certainly the one that is most important for them. Indeed, you know, both the coming matches are important for them if they want to actually secure this spot, which is rather unfortunate for them. Because it's quite a large task, quite a big hurdle to cross. With their team composition as it is, it's not bad, but it's not Goblin Spiders composition, you know. Having the Kung Fu Master with that blue buff, having Pieb on that Blade Dancer, even if in its slightly nerfed state, it's still got insane burst potential with that lightning draw, and of course one can't forget areas on that Warlock. When he gets going, and I certainly want to see him get right in there and just demolish them, as he should, because he's a Warlock. But you know, he desperately needs to avoid Lukey like the plague and walls. Walls are his enemy, as has been shown historically.
And as you said, I think Lukey will have to be probably the determining factor here with that destroyer, because of course, as we've seen, Goblin Spiders does not have a destroyer, and with the newer resurgence or appearance of that shadow build being very viable, it's just so effective against those Warlocks. So we'll see how things will wrap up, as we will have that first 3 versus 3 in the series commence, and we'll see whether or not Goblin Spiders can close this one out, or Papiano can somehow equalize, as it's actually going to be Lukey in the opener versus Zappish, already having a good time, forcing out that escape. So Zappish might be forced to tag out early, and there it is. Aria's already back in this matchup, and he knows he's not playing Shadow, so he should have at least a better time.
Yes, indeed, but it's already a bad situation. Oh, no. Speaking of walls, I warned you about this! Come on! Already taking a huge amount of damage for basically free there. And such a poor start for Goblin Spiders. 1 tag out used already. Area's already on low health. The assist coming in from the side of Papiano, protecting him a little bit. But now the blue buff from Zappish could be quite a bit of damage, but it's not really accomplishing too much. Overall, fairly even. Here come the Warlocks in. The Warlock damage. There's the areas. I know. Huge damage, equalizing the playing field a little bit. Hopefully he can continue to hold on to this lead. He still has both of his escapes, but if he gets caught out a second time, it might be his death.
Ooh, but the time distortion is available at the very least, so we'll see whether or not he can keep any damage going through still, as Pieb is in play. Now coming back in will be Zappish instead for Goblin Spiders. We'll try to re-engage so far. We'll have that Tabscape, of course, available. Actually goes for the stun after that Tremor. We'll have Zay forced back in, and very nicely timed by Zappish. But now, with that Tabscape being used very aggressively by Zay, it does mean that he will, at the very least, force Zappish to disengage for now. But the question is for how much longer, as that Hongmoon block will shortly time out, and Zay could potentially once again be in trouble.
But as you say, neither escapes are available for either players right now. A Searing Palm has also been used. Zay managed to avoid it with that Wing Protector. Now, the first opening, Zappish desperately needs to avoid that Soaring Falcon, because if it hits, it could spell his death, actually. Very well avoiding each other's attacks here, but at last, Zay getting caught out by Zappish. Needs to be very careful because the second wind is available, but in comes Ares with that damage. Luckily, Lukey comes in, Lukely, I guess, as the case may be, with that party save. Very timely. More or less back to this neutral game, which is trying desperately to find an opening.
Well, the only saving grace right now that I can see for Papiano is the fact that at the very least Fragola wasn't forced to use his assist yet, and now especially with Zay popping off, seemingly doing quite a lot of damage onto Zappish, will be looking even better. The assists are there. Zappish now dropping down to 44%, will be using his Tabscape, but the Tabscape for Zay is available as well. So with that being said, both of them expending those escapes. We'll see swaps commence. Lukey coming into play this time will not be spec'd into Fury, so we'll have that safe option instead. Actually popping Persistence already, but now popped into the air. This could be very dangerous. Already jumping extremely low. Lukey is out of the picture. Goblin Spiders with a 3-2 man lead now.
Yeah, that was absolutely the poorest choice that could have been made right there. Lukey still had an assist on him, and I'm not gonna go for the obvious pun here. It was a very, very unfortunate situation to find himself in. Even though they managed to get Zappish's tag outs down to 0, that one assist that he used there was enough to solidify the kill onto Lukey. And now, without their primary saver, a Warlock and a Blade Master walk into a bar. It's tough.
I don't think anyone's gonna walk out of that bar right now, especially when Goblin Spiders are waiting right there for them. Zappish, while he is at 50%, he does still have an assist, so we will actually see quite a bit of damage pulled off as Zay's gonna already be down to 34%, forcing his escape. If he gets caught one more time, that could very well be it for him. This area's still in for about 27 seconds. At the very least, they will not have to face Piep for a while, as we will not see those interference chances being acquired for quite a bit more time now. 2 minutes.
There it is.
6 seconds, but the ultimate being used by Zay is gonna at the very least give him a potential small advantage. Zappish coming in with the assist by Dido. That is not what you want. The assist there being very poor from the side of Goblin Spiders, and that's really bad because he doesn't have tag outs and he doesn't have assists, and now for quite a while still, it's only gonna be Piep able to tag out. At the very least, Area still has his assist, so it's not over just yet, but this is much closer than it probably should be.
Indeed, and although if Zappish comes in next time, he'll probably be forced to instantly use his ultimate. It's a great ultimate, but avoiding it is certainly going to be challenging, even when he's on such low health. Luckily, Fraggler comes in now, but gets chunked a little bit. Unfortunately for Piep, he doesn't get the tech chase onto Fraggler, and he's actually sitting nice and comfortable right now with his second wind still available for him. Second wind used for Piep off of that onrush. It's looking actually to be surprisingly even. If they play their cards correctly, Papiano could actually find themselves in a pretty decent spot. As I say that though, instantly the onrush launch into the air and Fraggler goes down.
The caster curse, not like this. It was looking good for them, and if somehow we could have seen Fragola stay safe to use that time distortion to a lot of effectiveness, it might have been potentially looking good, but Arias coming in, knew what he was doing, and now only Zay left here for Papiano. Can he somehow be the hero? He doesn't have a tab escape, gets run up into the air, but will have that defensive option, making sure he deflects all those projectiles for a while, but now it's going to be Arias tagging up Piep back into the fray with full HP. Should be looking favored this time.
Yes, considering the fact that Arias still has all of his assists available, it's a real uphill battle for Zay here. Even though he manages to avoid, he actually goes between the duel strikes. What a madman! I honestly thought that wasn't possible anymore, but here comes the Giga Blade. What? Yeah, how do you keep landing these? Zay, you can't let that happen, man. You can't just stop moving entirely. This is looking very, very grim for him. Second wind used without any escape available for him. He's trying his hardest to stay alive, 2%, but finally, the flash step will take him out.
I mean, we talked it to death, but Piep, how does he do it with those Giga Blades? If he has it and he uses it, I can't even remember a time where he missed.
Yeah, that's a head scratch right there. Why? Why does this keep working? Goodness me.
And we talked about how well he really can play on LAN. I mean, definitely keeping up that performance in the online cup still. So very well done by him. But the rest of his team too. I really like the confidence of Arias coming in, securing that kill too onto Fragola. That would have been very detrimental if he didn't pull that one off. It could have been really bad all of a sudden, especially since Zappish came in with the assist, got heavily punished for it. Was looking somewhat dire, but in the end, congratulations to Goblin Spiders, making it into the winners bracket finals, where they will later down the line face up against Team Bai. That's going to be a spicy one, Barney.
Yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to it. As much as others might hate gunslingers, I actually quite like. I think they're quite fun to play. I mean, you know, not to play against, that's a given, but certainly to play, it's pretty fun. So, as I am known as the hashtag not biased caster at this point, I'm going to reserve judgment until that match occurs. But commiserations to Papiano. They definitely tried very, very hard. They had some amazing moments in that fight where Zay, his burst potential with the new Searing Slash as well, he knew exactly when to do it. The timing and absolute just reflex ability that you need in order to go between the dual strike iframe after its buff. It was already difficult enough before. Now that its iframe has been lengthened, it's wow. Just phenomenal gameplay at the highest level. I really hope that he manages to if not today, then at least in the second preliminary tournament, come back up and just get in there, son. Get in there.
As he should, and as he really usually does, I would say. But more importantly, well played by Papiano as well, coming in as a newer formed team. Of course, you should know these players by now, but Lukey last year being under bad intentions, now being under Papiano, still looking very strong with the rest of his team. Fraggle as well, having different members, all of them really coming together nicely. And I do believe, as you said, if given a bit of extra time, they're going to be looking even better, right? The potential, the ceiling is definitely higher for this team, I would say. And once again, just to reiterate, if you just tuning in, the tournament format right now is still going to be 4-set mix and match. Later, as we've seen in terms of the bracket, we will move on to that set 8 matchup where Team Bai will face off against Goblin Spiders in the winner's bracket matchup. And the winner, of course, will be rewarded with a guaranteed spot at the finals, which will be happening on August 26th, for a chance at not only amazing cash prizes, but also the opportunity to represent Europe at the World Championship.
And with the teams currently coming up, as you say, bad intentions, at this point, they really shouldn't need any introduction. With how notorious their team has become, it's certainly a little bit surprising to see them in the losers bracket. However, this actually isn't the first time they've had a spot of bad luck. They also lost to Arias' team, Goblin Spiders, back when they were known as Bed Inventors, I believe. So yeah, their team names, man, it's a whole thing on its own.
Creative for Europe, for sure. Interesting choices, but nevertheless, as you said, it's very surprising on one hand to see them still in the losers bracket. With all of that being said, because they are still the reigning regional EU champions for now, and they have been insanely skilled for as long as we've known him. Ryuki, arguably the best Zayn in Europe, Tenna, arguably the best Warlock in Europe, and Mr. B as well. I mean, going into Worlds last year, when I talked to all the Western players, they pretty much, especially the European ones, because they had more of an opportunity to fight against Mr. B, they all kept praising him and saying that, okay, even after fighting all the different destroyers on the KR ladder and everyone else, we still think he's probably the best destroyer even in the world. So with the heavy emphasis on destroyers now in the current meta, we'll see how things will go out, as the first matchup will be a 1v1, and it's going to be Tenna on that Warlock versus Crimzia on that Gunslinger.
Yeah, Tenna really hates this matchup. Well, actually, I don't think there's a matchup he doesn't hate, honestly, now that I think about it. But he does manage to get the Tether Blade opener, and the Thrall... honestly, the Thrall has to have a better AI. There's no other explanation for it just being so much more consistent than it used to be. Getting a good damage already. Crimzia now forced to use the Tombstone, already used his second wind, and is actually forced to retreat, not able to get too much. The threat of the time distortion is just so great, but time distortion isn't going to be up for another minute and a half. That's a lot of time that he can spend trying to do stuff. But
it doesn't matter, Barty. What do you mean? The leech is still there, the damage is still there, and Tenna, definitely, after being a good boy, you know, being busy with the studies, study time is over, play time's now, and he's out for blood, he's out for those wins, and I mean, in what a fashion, right?
Hey, Caster's Curse, can you wait until I finish speaking before cursing, please? That'd be great, thanks. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Warlock doesn't have damage without time distortion. What year is it? Yeah, so he found that opening perfectly. The leech as well, into the instant aerial again. Seriously, the Thrall AI has to have been improved. I don't believe that it's just pure chance that it happens to be working so consistently now. It's just, why are you so consistent now? This was like the one thing that people could rely on to hopefully get an opening against you. But now I guess even that's not allowed.
Okay, so apparently when we're gonna go over the MVPs of the tournament, it seems like Thrall is a contender according to Barney so far. We'll see if that's gonna continue to be the case, because next up in the next 1v1, it will be Mr. B on the Destroyer for Bad Intentions versus Queen Fairy on the Assassin. And this should go over in favor of Mr. B, but No Fake needs to try and equalize the series right now. So how do you think Queen Fairy or Trucidator, also known as Trucidator, will do it, Barney?
Yeah, Mr. B has this amazing property of being very slippery. Just can't pin him down, really. And the way that he uses persistence as well is very unique to him, I would say. No one else uses it quite the same way. He uses it offensively, but also defensively at the same time. Preemptively sometimes as well. He's mastered the art, for sure. And we'll have to see exactly how it plays out, though.
And we'll see, as so far things are looking good for Queen Fairy, already forcing out that gust out of Mr. B while still keeping his respective defenses up, but very nicely timed with that Stone Shield stun actually coming out of Mr. B, being healthy at 100%, turning the tide of the battle. For now, tries to get him with the Typhoon, will not be successful, and the big problem right now for Mr. B is the fact that he used his persistence. So as long as Queen Fairy pays this out patiently, things should be looking better. He still has 12 seconds to work with.
He was so close to getting a Spinal Tap there, but unfortunately botched the input. Now, with Stealth down and Gust coming back up for Mr. B, he's actually back on the better foot here. No escapes available for Queen Fairy. He needs to be very, very careful, and he is playing it as such, immediately backstepping after the stun. But Mr. B, he knows these shenanigans. He expects it, so he just sits there calmly and waits for it. Desperately trying to get the get-up attack, but is unsuccessful. The Lotus Kick forced out that tab escape, and now kind of back how it was before. Lotus of Escape is available, but I'm not sure he actually placed it down. Okay, he did. Just in the nick of time. Stealth coming back up, and Persistence as well. It's very, very tedious. Tedious situation to be caught in, especially after getting dragged out of your stealth and then kneed in the face!
Oh, man. Bad Intentions. I mean, perfect execution. Mr. B relentless. Those tech chases on point. I mean, just such insane play coming out of Bad Intentions right now. Definitely showing us that, hey, we're still here. We still want to be the best. Show that we are the best in Europe, right?
Yeah, they definitely don't seem too pleased by the fact that they even find themselves in this situation at all. And they are certainly playing out of their mind here. The way Mr. B played, although it kind of seemed at first like maybe he used his escapes a bit too preemptively, and it looked grim for a brief moment. If Trucidator had managed to actually get that Spinal Tap after knocking Mr. B down, it could have gone very, very differently. But even still, he managed to survive a very, very long time against Mr. B. Eventually, though, it all comes down to that drag after the stealth. That tiny, tiny sliver of time where you can't actually move at all after using your escape skill. That's when Mr. B struck, pulled him out, kneed him in the face, and, well, slapped him across the face with a fish. So, yeah, bit embarrassing, that.
I mean, that's, you know, what Mr. B does best. But now, as we will be moving on to the 3 versus 3 format, this is actually the type of setup where things will be looking even worse potentially for No Fake, because Bad Intentions, they should have that team synergy down by now, and they've showed us that that would be exactly the case in time and time again in the past. And coming into this one, this is the type of setup where I would favor Bad Intentions even on paper going into the matchup, and even before seeing these players play today, of course, and Team No Fake really need to step things up if they are to equalize this one 2-2 and then bring us to another 1v1 to advance for the losers bracket. Because remember, the one who loses here is out.
Definitely. Although not not down and out, at least. Again, preliminary tournament 2, 3rd and 4th of August will provide additional chances for all the teams that have not been successful in making it to this stage thus far. So definitely stay tuned for that. And I certainly hope to see some more teams attending that one, and a Soul Fighter, preferably. I really want to see Soul Fighter.
And I think especially now with the more recent changes, they definitely should be looking much better. I mean, who knows? Maybe Bio will come back to represent that Soul Fighter class. But as said, coming up next, it is that 3 versus 3. We have the matchup ready, just about 10 seconds. And in terms of the opener, Barney, what are your expectations?
Tanner likes to lead the charge. If he gets a good, strong opener, that Tether Blade is such a strong tool, because it essentially forces you to use your escape skill instantly. Because if you don't, well, let's just say you don't want to be in that situation. And now, of course, leading the charge, it will actually be Tenna against Queen Fairy. So, not going for the safe opener, the flower into stealth, getting some decent damage, forcing the second wind out of Tenna already. No one really wants to be struck by that poison breath, but the Wingstorm actually catches Queen Fairy out of stealth. The Thrall launches him into the air. Luckily, Darian is there to save him, but now the time vision coming out. Goodbye, Thrall! Shadow Destroyer's here to stay!
But look at that. That's still not going to help Queen Fairy too much, because Tenna was able to dish out quite a bit of damage. Now, as the Bastion will time out, he will surely swap out, and there it is, Mr. B in the fray instead, but he has all his different cooldowns available, pops persistent, and then Queen Fairy, as a result, just disengages nicely timed by Mr. B, who tries to follow it up with a Typhoon potential wallbang. Their opportunity missed, but still, things looking very good for Bad Intentions at the start right now. However, with that, Crimzia might be able to start turning things around. Now, popping that Tombstone as well. The assist coming through, but Stone Shield was there.
Yeah, Stone Shield is such a great defensive tool, and he actually times his ram perfectly to force out another escape from Crimzia. However, now it's more or less even, I would say, but probably favoring Bad Intentions on the side of assist. Now, Ryuki launched into the air, but Crimzia, quick on his feet, knows exactly that Mr. B is like to come in and do his best to prevent him from doing the damage. The instant execute attempt from Darian does actually force out an escape from Ryuki, which is very, very good for Crimzia. You can't use your Lotus of Escape when you're in the air. Speaking of Crossfire, luckily, wow, that timing on the party iframe from Queen Fairy saved Crimzia from that Tether Blade, but now return damage. Oh, no!
No! Oh, the wallbang coming through. Darian might go out. The Shadow Build from Mr. B takes him to 3%. Darian, you need to tag out. You need to survive. He still has his Fury, still has his escape, but at this point, I mean, maybe he's waiting things out just a bit, but it's not really going to be worth. He goes down. And No Fake now with such low HP pulls. I mean, it was a last desperate attempt with the use of those cooldowns.
He did get some parting damage off, but at this stage, it's looking very, very grim for No Fake. Even though Tenna is currently webbed in the air, assists still available. In comes Ryuki, hit the first assist, his first assist of the match, actually. But luckily, Queen Fairy managing to dance around him. Yet another time distortion coming out from Tenna. It's such a difficult thing to fight against. The Bastion resets, the endless amount of Wingstorms. Being an assassin in this situation is very, very tedious. However, the Lotus Kick is still a pretty good tool available for him. At this point, it's all he can do to stall for time.
But even with that time, is it going to be really enough for anything? Because Mr. B is out for blood. He gets him in the grapple. Very nicely done to secure that kill, even with Crimzia coming in. He's going to stay in the arena as the final member of Team No Fake. The last desperate attempt coming in for their side, because once they lose this one, they are out of this tournament. 29% left in his HP pool. Mr. B still looking for an opportunity, having both of his defensive up and available. This could very well be it, especially gets the stun, forces out that escape. So as that persists, it just needs one more crowd control to secure this one. Pop's persistence to make sure he does just that. In the aerial, the damage is there, especially with the fighting spirit. And bad intentions take it 4-0.
Yeah, that's more the bad intentions that we've come to know and realize. But very unfortunate for Team No Fake the way that match ended up turning out. They had a pretty good lead at the start, but Adarian, because he was forced in at such an uncomfortable point, ideally when you're in when you're in yourself and not just coming in for the assist, you would probably want to have persistence over the Fury, because it's just a safer option overall, especially against a team like that who are so very well coordinated. It's unfortunate. However, they did hold on pretty long. Definitely, I want to congratulate Team Bad Intentions for kind of picking up the pace again and going back to the state that we have come to know them by. As well, Crimsia tried desperately at the end there to save his teammate from getting wedged between an axe and a hard place. But, you know, being grabbed while the Destroyer is in Ember Stomp and the frontal block it gives, oh, it's grim, sadly. Commiserations.
Exactly. With that being said, still, congratulations to NoFake to making it this far. They have been known, especially with their respective team composition, to look for those more aggressive plays. So they've been punished and, of course, exploited by Bad Intention in this case, in which we'll be advancing throughout the losers bracket. As you can see, we're getting oh so close to securing those 2 spots that will be qualifying for the finals on it. That will be happening in Leicester on August 26th at the ESL UK studio, for a lot of cash prizes and the opportunity to represent Europe. Of course, for Team No Fear in this case, they will have another shot at making a particular spot in the second preliminary tournament on the August 3rd to 4th. But until then, we will be moving over to a short break. But coming up next will be another exciting matchup. Don't go anywhere.
was kind of a dream to play esports.
Hello and welcome to the Blade and Soul Europe.
I wanted to compete in Korea. That was like my goal, in top of EU. And then I achieved that, and it was really exciting to be there.
To be honest, we didn't expect to win regionals. We were like, yo, we can actually do this.
That's what I mean, 10 out of being 10.
And it motivated us, and we like kept going, and we wanted to prove that we can stand our ground against people, right?
I just told myself I will be there one day. Looking up to good players in EU, I got better myself, got into the community and helped each other out, improved over time.
You learn more from a loss than from a win. Play to improve, not to win.
Get good, make a team, and have a great time with us.
It's a great experience.
To every player that has come this far, I have seen your commitment. I have seen your sacrifices. All of this. This is for you.
Welcome back to day 2 of the Europe first preliminary tournament for the Blade and Soul World Championship qualification. My name is Brunch, of course, joined by Barney. And as we will be moving on further through the losers bracket, it's going to be another interesting matchup, a rematch between Team Papiano and Bad Intentions. We just saw Bad Intentions and we know they are on point. But Papiano were the first team, or rather were the team to knock Bad Intentions into the losers bracket in the first place.
We'll have to see how they manage to do the second time around. Usually the pattern goes as follows, where if Bad Intentions does happen to lose against a certain team, they eventually get back to a rematch against that team and then proceed to crush them rather handily. So we'll have to see if that cycle can at last be broken by Papiano. So, yeah, it's certainly going to be a very, very interesting match to see. I certainly can't get enough of Zayn, honestly. And just looking at the composition, although it may seem similar at a glance, it's actually probably still on paper better for Bad Intentions. Having that assassin with that blue buff, with that stall potential, and most importantly of all, I think, having a second escape skill that can be reset by Tenna with his time distortion. That is really, really huge. Ryuki is certainly no slouch when it comes to surviving, and I think he's probably the best player at doing so by far.
And of course, if you didn't quite catch that, unfortunately, it wasn't shown on stream, but Papiano did manage to knock out the team of 20 Bucks is 20 Bucks in the losers bracket. Unfortunately for their side, they've been playing really well too throughout the tournament, so I really hope to see them regroup, come back next time in the second preliminary tournament, as they've had a lot of good signs. I mean, with players like Antrax, Brodabil, it's a given that they will be coming in stronger next time around. But now that we are into Papiano versus Bad Intentions, another interesting factor about this matchup is the fact that you have Lukey up against Bad Intentions, who was their teammate last year. So you might think maybe there's that extra incentive for Lukey to beat them, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's also a somewhat of an advantage to have going into this matchup. When you're teammates with certain people, the thing that you focus on most is not necessarily how well they do things, but you're also critical of one another. You want to try to make yourselves improve so that competition is less arduous. And so coming in with that previous knowledge is certainly going to help his team in that all-important 3 versus 3. But for now, Zayn versus Ryuki.
And we'll see who can lead the charge here, as we've seen how explosive Zayn can really be in this 1v1 matchups, but so is Ryuki. And now as he will get launched up in the air, Zayn on point right now will be able to get a small advantage. Of course, those defensive cooldowns are still available on both sides, but Ryuki already at 50%. Very nicely re-engaged there by Zayn, who keeps the paint train rolling. Already tab escape forced out by Ryuki, and he really has to use those as he is down to 33%.
Yes, already looking very, very grim. Such a strong start.
Oh!
What? You are insane. What was that? You absolute madman! You beast!
The flash steps. You called out the top 10 anime fights moments happening yesterday. I think
number one.
That trend is still going
Number
for now
one.
strong.
Goodness.
So
Goodness.
with that showing, Papiano, Red Team Papiano take the lead. 1-0. Bad intentions, of course, will not be down and out just yet. Next up, it will be a mirror matchup between Lukey and Mr. B. So Destroyer versus Destroyer, and this can really go either way again, I'd say.
I'm still in awe from the previous match. I'm still reliving those 16 seconds, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was so good. I can't believe that he backstepped into Flicker after the aerial and then double flash stepped. Who does that? Who does that? And gets away with it?
Player by the names of Zayn, it seems like, as he will get himself and his team that first point on the board. Of course, next, that Destroyer Mirror matchup. What is your take on it, having seen it now for quite a bit?
Well, Lukey is going up against, as you say, arguably the strongest and most convincing Destroyer player in EU. Well, I mean, arguably, because people always argue who's better. But Lukey has certainly shown himself to not be a slouch at all on that Destroyer. I certainly hope that he manages to figure a way around Mr. B's incredible patience that he has that allows him to stay alive for so long. We'll have to see who gets that all-important opener.
We'll get that early lead into the fight. Seems like Mr. B might be just the person to do just that. Gust already expended here by Lukey. If you're having troubles keeping track of who's who, the ponytail one is Lukey, who is taking quite a bit of the brunt of that damage for now. Mr. B having his way so far, 39% already down. Mr. B very healthy at 100 with both his defensive up. But as I say that, he will be forced to use that Gust, but with such an early lead, things will be looking really good. But that was a nice tech chase, and now with the persistence being popped as well, maybe finally Lukey can turn the tide.
Yes, he needs to find that just one opener, and he will be able to close it out with both of his escapes available. You can see how Mr. B is trying his best to avoid getting caught out by his escape skills. But now the Ember Stomp is down. Lukey, he manages to get himself out of that situation after taking a smash to the face. Golden Fish, by the way. Ooh, gets a ram. However, the Gust is going to be back up for Mr. B. He needs to be very careful. Luckily, Lukey is inside that Ember Stomp, which is protecting him for a little bit longer. The knee, very unsuccessful there. That would be the tide turner. However, he's not out of it just yet. But getting dragged up and rammed. There's the persistence into the stun, getting a good chunk of damage there. Going to heal himself up teeny tiny bit with the wedge. We'll see how he goes from here.
Oh, and he still has that Gust, so Mr. B might be out of it. 11%, no defensive. Lukey turns it around. I mean, we praise his Destroyer play being leveled up from what we've seen. I mean, I saw him play a bunch of it last year too. He wasn't bad at it at all, but with that extra practice, that extra time being put in on that particular class, it's definitely paying off. I mean, man, Team Papiano, what a show.
I wish I had my towel because that was that is quite how does this happen? How can you be at such a huge deficit and then end up coming back in what is arguably, I think, a very obvious tell to be caught in that situation? Okay, I've just used Gust. I know he has persistence, and yet to still be caught out by the persistence into the Stone Shield stun, that was really well played. He certainly has made up for his performance earlier today, but that was just absolute destruction. And you can see exactly how quickly and easily Destroyers can turn the tide, even against one another. The amount of damage that they put out in such a short space of time is so high, it's so reliable. And that is certainly why they feel that Lukey on his destroyer was a good shout. And I have to agree. Good shout, lads.
And now, as we will be going into the free versus free setup, it will be a little bit more favorite potentially for Bad Intentions, but can Papiano really do it? I mean, knocking out a team like Bad Intentions twice in the same tournament, I mean, that's a strong showing for what is realistically your first showing in a tournament setting as this particular team. Coming into this one, especially I think Lukey proving to his former teammates of Tenna and Ryuki when he was alongside them on Bad Intentions, hey, maybe I should have thought twice about, you know, swapping things around. I mean, don't call me on that. Maybe he wanted to leave the team. I'm not quite sure what was the case there. But either way, very, very flashy plays by not only the likes of Lukey, but also Zay, of course.
Yeah, they have such a strong lead, and they have a small safety net available to them. Should they lose this 3 versus 3, there will be a final 1 versus 1 afterwards, and it will actually end up being a rematch of Mr. B versus Lukey, should it come to that. However, they probably want to try and close things out within the 3 versus 3 in much the same fashion that they did yesterday, which is eliminate Tenna immediately and just don't have to deal with him afterwards. That's how they won. That's how they need to do it again.
And we'll see already Lukey being up in the opening versus Ryuki. That's going to be always fun to cast about. But so far, Ryuki still staying safe. Does manage to land that web. However, Gus now expended by the side of Lukey. Will manage to get him safe for now. But the question is for how much longer, as Ryuki is going to find another potential opening. Ember Stomp is going to keep Lukey still safe for an extra while, especially now being back up quite a bit with that Stone Shield. Will be somewhat resetting the fight.
Ooh, actually manages to avoid the swap with the Searing Strike rather. But now gets him in the daze, gets the knee tech chase, forces Ryuki to use his Lotus immediately. Gets a bit of smash for damage, but Ryuki does still have his escape. Persistence is available for Lukey, but he can't use it when he's knocked down, and Ryuki is abusing this fact very readily. Now, quite a big team fight breaking out here. Lukey getting a bit more damage on him, getting a little bit of health back actually, thanks to that time distortion assist, but now webbed on the ground. This is actually very bad for him. The execute was avoided entirely thanks to that persistence, and he saves himself with the iron plating from any further damage. Very well timed by Lukey.
And with that, he will be able to stay safe for a while longer, but again, while yes, he does still have that gust, especially now with the Ice Mine available, Ryuki should have an easy setup. He does have both his defensive. Will look to play aggressively because he has 10 more seconds left, and he knows Lukey is in it for 6 more seconds at this point too. They are mirroring each other. Lightning Star is going to dish out quite a bit of damage. Not sure if that was a crit, but so far, we'll look to build up a slight advantage potentially to the side of Bad Intentions, but that is not what you want if you're Zay here for Team Papiano. Mr. B still sitting on that Ember Stomp. Now finally gonna see Mr. Fragola come in here for Papiano.
Yeah, they need this damage. They need to do as much as they possibly can. The guaranteed tether blade after the leech is very good. However, Mr. Fragola actually deflects himself. Mr. B not able to get too much because of the vacuum, but now dragged into the wall. Luckily, he was actually able to roll out of it. He was still dazed by something else, which is a very, very good. The Typhoon is now going to be down for quite some time. Zay trying to come in, do some damage, not able to actually get too much. Fragola taking a little bit from Tenna as well. However, Mr. B doesn't really want to be in this matchup. It's quite challenging for him, but he keeps getting deflected. Fragola, he's saving his second wind. He's at the wall again. He needs to tag out back into Lukey. Fragola on quite a large health deficit now.
Oh, but look at that. Lukey's running with that Fury, so you know what that means now. Finally connected with the stuff. This could be the kill. Tenna is out of it. That is exactly what can happen, especially when Zay can come in for that kill too. And Bad Intentions, it's gonna take some heroics out of them if they are to stay in this tournament. Lukey now in such a big advantage with the rest of his team, but he did get to use all of his defensive. Even Fragola coming in with the time distortion will get at the very least one reset, so things will be on the up and up for them, but still potentially dangerous, still with that shadow build. Mr. B taking even more damage, but It's such a tough time for Bad Intentions.
Holy crackers, Batman! How does that happen? How do you get away with that amount of damage on Execute and Fury? Now Lukey might get a taste of his own medicine up against the wall, and he does actually go down to that blue buff Lightning Strike, evening up the playing field. However, it's just not worth it. You lost your Warlock for a Destroyer. That's not good, mate. That's still not good. It's anyone's game, but it's definitely favoring Papiano at this time.
Ooh, can't say really time his second win here. The ultimate being used by Mr. D just to potentially find something else there, but he could get an advantage here, especially gets the aerial now. However, with Fragola coming in, he's gonna manage to stay safe, forced to pop. Actually, his persistence as well. And with that, Ryuki will come into fray. The saving grace for Zayn, the fact that he has his escape, uses that ult to snipe Ryuki, catching him down to 26%. And things still could be really going either way, as Zayn's gonna be up. The assassinate is actually gonna get to that quick animation will secure the kill. And now with only Fragola left, somehow Bad Intentions show us why they're not gonna be counted out at any point until it's over, especially now that Mr. B beautiful reconnect there onto Fragola, gets him close to the wall. That's not where you want to be, but even with the shadow build at that, and only Fragola left here for Papiano.
Okay, the ultimate was luckily avoided by the iron plating, but you have to respect these players. Everything that they do has to be respected. The leech comes out. You can't forget that Fragola is a Warlock. He can probably do this if he plays it all well, but Mr. B does have the defensive spin in with the Fury. Fragola has to be careful from that Execute. It's so dangerous. He's just going ham on him inside the Sanctum. Finally so getting close. A little bit of leeway. God.
Still so close, 15%. No assists available for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Still for the rest of side of Bad Intentions. Actually, Fragola gets the kill. This could very well still happen. Can Papiano somehow with Fragola close this one out? He doesn't have that escape. And the answer is no. Ryuki gets the kill. And somehow, after that disastrous start for them where Tenna got taken out so fast, Bad Intentions are not gonna be out. They equalize it 2-2, but what a series, man.
My poor heart can't take it. It's so intense. There was so many points there that were just absolutely ludicrous. You have to, like I was saying, you have to respect everything these players bring to the field. Lukey coming in with that absurd Execute with the Fury, just absolutely demolishing Tenna in a split second, who died with all of his assists and tagouts again, by the way. You really don't want to be doing that. They somehow managed to pull it back. Ryuki pulling out the clutch, though, especially getting rid of Zayn. Zayn was his biggest issue. If Zayn had landed that Soaring Falcon a little bit early, if he had managed to stall out enough time to then use it on Ryuki and the Searing Slash as well, that burst damage could have just killed him outright. You have to respect the Searing Slash even more than before now. But the ultimate is so quick. He timed it so beautifully after that initial aerial. It was exactly what Bad Intentions needed to stay in the game. But they are still in the game. The game has not yet ended. There is still the matter of the Destroyer rematch. Lukey versus Mr. B, the final 1-versus-1 in this so intense series. Oh.
And I mean, even the last time these two faced against each other in that previous 1v1, it was so close. It really came down to the wire, and I would imagine that's going to still be the case. So I don't know about your poor heart, Barney. I think it's still in it for a tough ride as the match will start. This will decide who advances through the losers bracket and who goes out of the first preliminary tournament. Mr. B versus Lukey. Already Mr. B going in with a good opener, forcing out that reflex, so was unable to punish it. However, Ember Stomp is there. Launches to put up into the air. Gust was used, so again, somewhat of a repeat in the sense from what we've seen the last time these two faced up against each other. But already, never mind, as I say that, Lukey potentially getting an advantage.
He deflects
him! And with that, he uses
no. Oh no! Oh no! so bad. This could be so bad for Mr. B. He has no escapes, and Lukey still has persistence. We'll have Gust in 10 seconds. Oh, okay, he misses the ground game. That was very unfortunate. If he had landed that could have been very bad. But he doesn't care. He gets another opening. This is so close. He mustn't be impatient here. He needs to play his cards right. Save his escapes. Mr. B will have his Gust very soon.
Oh, but at this point, it's going to be such a tough ask of him. Gust was used by Lukey. As he said, he needs to be patient. This is in the bag for him at this point, right? He has such a landslide of an advantage. He just needs to play his cards right. But now, finally, Mr. B, can he be the clutch factor this time around in the Destroy Mirror matchup, keeping him on the ground? However, now getting retaliation fire from Lukey. We'll see who can pick up the win. In terms of those defensive options, it's favoring the side of Mr. B. He gets the follow-up, and now with the smash, pops out quite a bit of damage. Persistence used on both sides, but Gust will soon enough be available for Lukey, and that's when things will potentially seal things up for him, as 9%, 6% for Mr. B. Lukey, he's so close to winning this one for his team. He's so close for making sure that Papiano advances for the losers bracket. 6% still healing just a little bit, but no!
He gets it! The first time in history that this team has been around, they've been knocked out without securing themselves. Even like, oh my goodness, they've made history! Lukey! Oh my god!
I mean, we talked a little bit about how perhaps, Lukey, this is a vengeance match, saying, okay, you kind of, in the sense, replaced me with Mr. B as the teammate for bad intentions. Man, wasn't that a mistake, seemingly, right now? Winning not once, but twice in the Mirror matchup. And being one of the biggest factor in the free versus free setup, too. So, what a story, really. What an insane play coming in from both sides. But congratulations to Team Papiano for pulling out the win.
That was really intense. I can't fit enough reallys in to describe accurately how intense that was. Unbelievable. By far the best match we've had so far in this entire preliminary tournament. If the second one is even half as good as this, it's an accomplishment. That 3 versus 3 was absolutely beautiful. The 1 versus 1s as well were just so well played. And there was so many moments that were intense. There were so many moments that could have been different, could have been played a bit better from both sides. But in the end, the advantage went to Lukey twice. He managed it. That's convincing. That is convincing.
And with that being said, Papiano is 1 step away of securing themselves a spot in that final tournament, just to play on a LAN setting and potentially not only win a lot of cash prizes, but also get a chance to represent Europe for the World Championship. And at this point, you got to say, with the teams that are left right now for the winners bracket finals and the losers bracket finals, I wouldn't be ashamed of any of these teams to represent Europe, really.
Not even slightly. The way that they've managed to masterfully play against one another. The important thing to note as well, they are all playing in the same region. This is the best practice one could ever hope for. They know that since this has happened once already, that they can go and do it again. Now that they have sort of scouted out that competition is arising, and this is the very, very good thing. And in a sense, I do have to thank Bad Intentions for this. The fact that they were initially so far ahead of their competition that it was kind of almost drab a little bit at times to see them win so consistently and consecutively. But as a result of them being so consistently good, their competition managed to flourish. They managed to work themselves up to a state where they were finally able to compete against them and to actually give them a run for their money. And so this is in no way meant to disrespect any players here today or yesterday. The fact that we have attained this kind of level is indicative that we're ready for Korea. I believe so. And so that's what this is all leading up to. The fact that the better team will represent us, but in the end, every team is more than capable of doing so.
And as you just saw, as we are moving into the winners bracket finals and the losers bracket finals shortly after, we are moving on to the 8-set matchup where we will have plenty more action coming your way instead, with the first matchup being that winner's side of the bracket between Team Bai and, of course, it's just going to be such an insane matchup versus Goblin Spiders as their opponents, because on one hand, you have Ace 5, who has been so lethal on that gunslinger. Colorize, a staple player here for that team too. And Goblin Spiders, who keep raising the bar. It's just gonna be absolutely insane, Barney.
Oh, most definitely. The fact that the teams left remaining, I'm scared. If we get anything even half as exciting as what we just witnessed, I fear my voice box is going to jump out my throat. So definitely looking forward to such matches. Pieb, probably the one to look out for on the side of Goblin Spiders. I mean, he gets away with the Giga Blade so frequently. I don't know how. It's like everyone's brain just turns off when it happens. It's just like, oh, that's a giant sword. That's pretty cool, I guess. Oh, I'm dead.
Just like, you know, it's a very beautiful animation, to be fair. You know, it's quite a sight to behold, so in a sense you can understand it. But nevertheless, Team Bai versus Goblin Spiders. I mean, yes, Goblin Spiders have those veterans, they have a lot more experience as a team, but Team Bai definitely showing us that they are no joke when it comes to 3 versus 3 as well as 1v1s. But considering this matchup, overall, looking at the team compositions, looking at the players themselves, I think it might just have to be the 1v1s where we have to see Team Bai potentially be somewhat equal and then pull out the win through the superior composition, in a sense, at least in terms of what's considered the best in the current meta, I would say.
Yeah, Team Bai definitely has that advantage, as we've mentioned several times already, and especially Ace 5 on that gunslinger. You cannot let him get away with the things he does. The other important thing is that Gunslinger has a slight advantage in the damage department over Warlock, in that Crossfire can be used whenever. I feel like crossfiring now, and so I shall. And so you don't necessarily need to launch the opponent into the air in order to get the maximum amount of damage out of that Gunslinger, especially if they manage to, if you're being wallbanged at that time and they put down their AoEs, you are completely dead. Like, you might as well just push your keyboard away, let go of your mouse, have a cup of tea maybe, because you're not going to be part of that match for much longer.
And we'll see as the first round of the winners bracket finals will start. Who are you guys most excited about? It's gonna be Team Bai versus Team Goblin Spiders. Mew on the one hand side versus Pieb here for Goblin Spiders in red. And now already opening up pretty aggressively. Pieb is on point though, still playing it safe. Just actually doing quite a bit of damage onto the Thrall, keeping himself safe with those strafes surrounded too. And now being able to use that draw to actually still catch Mew in that Sanctum. So looking pretty good for him, however. Of course, escapes as well as that time distortion is still available on the side of Mew, going in for the leech into the aerial. Pieb might be in big danger here, especially now with the time distortion coming up, but tab escape was there, even getting the days off, so that might be the saving grace here for Pieb.
Oh, but now he is forced to retreat. He can't risk too much because it is such a dangerous situation for him to be in. He saved his second win for the Imprison because it's such a dangerous tool. Speaking of the Imprison, unfortunately, Mew wasn't able to get too much. Now, this is Pieb's time to shine. Lightning Draw is available. If he manages to get a good opening, then he can do some insane damage. The Lightning Draw damage after the aerial is going to be huge. Look at that! Oh! Yeah, Mew forced out of a second win there, but caught out again!
Oh!
Even with the roll, and you can't use Void Walk, and with the Blitz Blade and the Ascend, Pieb manages to end that round very, very quickly.
That was such a beautiful timing coming out of Piep after the draw 2 to land the stun and force that escape out of mute. Was pretty much things we expect Piep to do at this point, managing to get his team the lead early on. But of course, coming up next being the Gunslinger versus Warlock matchup, Ace5 versus Areas. This is definitely a matchup where I would expect Team Bai to equalize the series.
It's going to be difficult for both sides, I feel, for they both have such insane burst potential regardless, but especially during the aerials. If perhaps Ace5 were to go for that shadow build, the Undertaker could actually damage the Thrall as well as Areas should he be in the air, which is a very, very useful thing to have. In addition, the Tombstone cooldown in the Shadow build is actually shorter than the Tombstone cooldown in the Fire build, meaning that it's more opportunities to gain 2 seconds of pure immunity. That's a lot of stuff I really want to see Shadow Gunner, is what I'm trying to say. But it's unlikely. It's not bad, it's just unlikely. So definitely they need to watch out for each other's aerials. I think Ace5 is probably going to have a slightly better time. Alpha Call is vastly superior to Void Walk in every regard. And so getting him actually stunned up is going to be very challenging. Unless Ares manages to land a perfect, damn near perfect leech into the onrush, into the launch, Ace5 should have enough time to react. His reflexes have shown us that he certainly has enough time to react to such, well, ill situations in time.
And I mean, we talked a little bit about it, especially you most definitely did, but with the Thralls stepping it up too, maybe that could furthermore sway things in favor of Areas. But either side, I gotta say, whichever team comes out on top here and secures themselves that spot in the finals that will be going on the 26th for those cash prizes, as well as the chance at representing Europe for the World Championship, it's gonna be insane either way. I mean, the 3 versus 3 is where things will go absolutely crazy, I feel like, between these two teams in particular. And now, as Goblin Spiders did manage to roll their way through the competition at this point, just looking at their score line, you would think they are heavily favored, but I think Team Bai still has a lot to show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Given how they kind of swamped their competition. Okay, they gave up a round here and there. It's not too bad. However, when it comes down to it, they have the means to deal with all of the shenanigans that may come their way, especially from Goblin Spiders, especially from that just really, really shockingly consistent combination of Zappish with his neutral flying slam. How that lands 90% of the time, I don't know. It's impressive, to say the least, and it's certainly something to keep an eye out for, because if they do get hit by it, if anybody gets hit by it from Team Bai, and Areas is on the field at that time, you're dead. You are guaranteed gone to the grave.
And it's even though, yes, Team Bai did lose a few rounds on their journey towards that winner bracket finals, their opponents were definitely no slouch as well. So they claimed quite a few victories versus strong opponents too. So did Goblin Spiders. So again, perhaps the experience or the extra experience on the side of Goblin Spiders will be the thing to really solidify a potential win here. But either way, it's still going to be close. And this first 1v1, I do believe, would have been, or is rather, the part where Team Bai is at its weakest. We haven't seen too much of Myung-chan in the 1v1s. I do think Colorize and Ace5 have shown that in terms of that particular setup, they are a bit more experienced or a bit stronger. That might be because of the classes too, but still, we'll see if Team Bai can equalize things up as the round will start shortly. Once again, coming up, it will be Ace5 versus Areas.
And this is such a crucial start. Getting the opener against the Warlock and the Gunslinger respectively is so important. But Areas already getting a little bit of damage dealt to him. Ace5 avoiding things quite well, does get stunned, and the Thrall with that instantaneous launch, Ace 5 in a really rough spot already, and the match has barely begun. Time Distortion coming out already. Luckily, Skystone is there to help him avoid much of the damage coming out. The Alpha Ball has to be used to try to get a second escape, but the instant launch that I said was necessary comes out. Areas, no slouch to this class at all. And if anybody had any doubts, I mean, he still has no spatial awareness when it comes to walls, but at the very least, he knows how to combo. And that was very, very impressive.
And to his credit, too, I think throughout this particular tournament, I do believe he was on point. He only went for one other 1v1, I believe, throughout the winner's bracket outside of this one. And he won that one very handily, just like this one. So to his credit, he has been on point with those, and paying off will mean that Goblin Spiders will take the lead now with 2 points in their favor. But next, with that 3 versus 3, this is again another opportunity for Team Bai to equalize it up.
Yes, of course, since this is a set of 8, it's a long set, and there are plenty of opportunities to win and lose. Given that this next 3 versus 3 is fairly important, winning it is definitely something that Bai wants to do, and especially because the very final matches in this set are going to be 3 versus 3s. If they can win convincingly in the first 3 versus 3, that's a huge, huge morale booster. That means that they can do the same later on again, twice maybe. And so that's what they need to try to rely upon. Now that it is the 3 versus 3, the team composition is definitely going to come more into play. Because Team Bai has the better composition overall, we would expect them to have a slightly easier time. However, when it comes to actual execution, Pieb and Zappa have shown that just because their composition is a little bit on the odd side, doesn't mean they can't make it work amazingly. And especially the threat of the ultimates. The longer the match goes, the more ultimates come into play. And with ones as good as the Giga Blade and as good as the Kung Fu Masters, that's a lot of pressure on you to try and avoid all of those at the same time.
And imagine how crazy it would actually be if Goblin Spiders make their way all throughout the tournament without losing a single set. So far, that dream is still alive. Hopefully I didn't curse them by mentioning it right now, but with the 3 versus 3 setup coming up, in terms of the opener, of course, for the side of Goblin Spiders, there's no real particular reason why you would send out the Blade Dancer. Of course, Geb is going to be the savior for his team. He's going to be coming in with those party defenses. So as a result, would you expect Ares to lead the charge, or would it be Zappish?
Most likely, I would expect Ares. However, Zappish has been known to start things off as well. But against the classes that Team Bai has, it seems a little bit unlikely, and it actually will be Ares. Imagine starting into a gunslinger, goodness me. The Undertaker, the Shadow build! Yes! Already so much damage. This is why it's so powerful. Undertaker's on a 12-second cooldown, and it does slightly less damage than Crossfire. And it's AoE! Why wouldn't you use it? It's amazing, and already such a fantastic start for the side of Team Bai. But as I say that, thank you, Caster, for letting me finish my sentence first. Wait. Where did the other teammate go? Excuse me? Excuse me. Did that just happen? Okay. So that was a fun 5 seconds of my life.
You got your wish. We saw the Shadow build gunners.
I mean, yeah, we did see the Shadow Gunner. I can't really complain about that. Okay, well, 4 points to none. So into the next 1 versus 1. I don't even want to spend time talking about what happened in that 3 versus 3 because that was just an absolute train wreck, and that was how do you let that happen? That was
I have to watch a replay of that because Colorize tagged in. Colorize tagged in, and he was instantly dead too. So I'm not quite sure what the interaction there was and what exactly happened, but Good job on Goblin Spiders to absolutely decimate the competition so far. And next up, already still keeping the dream alive, still no sets lost. It will be another 1v1 setup. Remember, it's first to get to 6 points. So if Goblin Spiders win the next 2 1v1s, they're pretty much locked in, secure their spot, and we will see them at the LAN finals, of course. And for that next 1v1, it's going to be Zappish versus Colorize, Destroyer versus KFM. Talk to me a little bit about it.
A lot of Destroyers really do you mind? I'm trying to do something here. A lot of Destroyers like to argue that it's a pretty difficult matchup against the Kung Fu Master. They have so many tools to try to avoid a lot of what the Destroyer manages, and especially because they have their strafes available. The guard break knee is an option. However, it's still quite risky to do, because if Zappish baits it out and manages to strafe the knee, that's a free triple kick that's essentially guaranteed, because I don't think you can quite react quickly enough to them dodging that knee. However, you have to take into account the players that are playing. And Colorized, when he showed up at first back at the regional last year, people didn't think he was going to be all that, but dude's pretty slick, I tell you that.
And this is where he really needs to start living up to that name, because he's going to be playing not only the next 1v1, but the one after, because the final 1v1, the fourth one, both teams can select any member at that point. First free, you have to slot in every other member. You can't have a repeat of the same member then, but he's going to have to do it at the very least one of these up-and-coming 2 times to really make sure his team even stays at this point in the winner's bracket. As so far, Zappish is already having a really good time, even proccing that steering palm. He's going to dish out quite a bit of damage. Colorized has both of his defensives, but he's taking so much damage.
Yeah, but he's being very patient. He waited out both the steering palm and the comet strike. The guard break knee is a very good. Putting down the Ember Stomp as well. And the Mighty Cleave. Zappish, you can't just sit there and take that. Look at your health, man. Avoiding the Tiger Pounce with the Searing Strike very timely, and manages to deflect the Avenging Fist as well. Zappish in a little bit of trouble here, is forced to use his second wind, but Colorized in a very good spot here. However, the Searing Palm damage is nothing to scoff at. He needs to be careful here. Ooh! Persistence to avoid the smite, and now he is still looking to be in a pretty good spot. The Avenging Fist to avoid the was really good, and there's the Flying Slam in neutral.
I mean, I was thinking, oh yes, Colorize definitely has this one, but now launched up into the air again. Yes, he still has that gust, but it's so close for Zappish to actually even finish the job during those aerials. Second win will be back up for him, so that potential advantage is now completely gone. Zappish might just close this one out. Rising Dragon being used to get him out of the Ember Stomp ever so slightly, but in the end, one more CC is all Zappish needs to finish this one, and he might just do it with the use of that tap escape, but no. Colorize barely dodging it. That was very crucial there. Strafes coming in, actually gets the triple kick and finishes the job with the smite.
That was so unfortunate for Colorize. He was trying to red spin his way to victory, or at least try and buy some more time for himself. Unfortunately, Typhoon cost a lot of focus, and he ran out at the final moment, which is exactly what Zappish needed to use Firestorm Kick on him and guarantee the smite afterwards. It's undefeated so far.
Still undefeated.
Oof.
And, you know, gotta give him credit for being immune to the caster curse so far.
Yeah, well, yeah.
To be, you know, potentially at this point their biggest challenge, because they haven't lost a single set throughout the tournament somehow. At any point where things started to look dire, never mind. The outplay somehow still happens. Zappish brings it back in his favor. I mean, Colorize played it so patiently. He waited it out. He had that advantage in terms of the defensive, but it wasn't enough.
It was not enough, but it was certainly a good attempt. However, when he tried to use his gust immediately after the aerial, it didn't actually hit the Kung Fu Master, unfortunately, which is just... It's what Colorize would have needed to win that matchup, unfortunately. But never mind. They certainly are in a fantastic spot here. Team Bai have a seemingly insurmountable bridge to cross. Mountain to climb would have made more sense with that analogy, but it's a very steep bridge apparently. So in this next 1v1, they get to choose who they send out. They would be best off probably sending out their strongest player. In my eyes, would be Ace 5. If Ace 5 manages to get at least one round in, that's enough.
But it's a match point, and I gotta wonder whether or not Team Buy is maybe considering, okay, this might be a loss, but we have to keep our composure. We have to win, at the very least, the next set in the losers bracket if somehow they go out right now. Because remember, it is match point. As said, Goblin Spiders will be sending out Piep Colorize back into the fray once again, but things just not working out so far for him, as he's gonna be dropped down. Draw already being used, damage quite effective, gust expended, and yes, he still has that persistence, but Piep already in a pretty good spot. As I say that, finally he will be forced to that tap escape. Persistence actually popped, dodge that Soaring Falcon too, and getting that aerial. Ember Stomp is there. This could be dangerous for Piep. Colorized. How much damage can he really dish out? This is where he needs to do as much as possible. Now Piep punished off with the refresh tool. It's gonna drop to 30%. Well, this is still really close, and the advantage is gonna be building up for Colorize as he has 4 seconds until Gust is back up.
He's avoiding all these Soaring Falcons so well, but Piep, much the same way, is avoiding his blitzes. He needs to be very careful. He's at the wall, but luckily a Guardian Tempest comes up just in the nick of time. This is so unfortunate for Colorize, though. He had the game, but unfortunately delayed a little bit too long, and now with no escapes. I don't know if Piep can close it out quite yet. Lightning Draw isn't available, but this man is so good at the ground game. Persistence up in 5. Colorized should be able to come up soon. It doesn't matter. The Lightning Draw's going to finish him off.
What a beautiful setup coming in by Piep. Goblin Spiders undefeated in the tournament. Not a single set lost.
Yeah, that was... I mean, we talked about Piep before. We've said how he manages to do these things, pull off impossible comebacks. I actually forgot to mention he had a 1 versus 3 comeback in the Battle Brawl, so it's actually not entirely uncommon to see him do quite so well. But to be undefeated this whole time, that takes some true skill. And well played.
You just gotta imagine, I just want to imagine the numbers were popping in his head. Okay, calculated. He knew exactly that at that point, not having those defensives up, gets him in an aerial again off of the rate stun into the take flight, and then finishes the job with the draw. Just insanely well played by the whole team, really. Whether it's Zappish, Piep, Arias, they have all been on point, and they have that title now to show with 0 sets lost, and now with a spot secured for themselves in that finals, which will be going on in Leicester on the 26th of August. And I'm kind of sad that they already secured them spot, because that means we're not going to see them until then, but still very well deserved. Cash prizes guaranteed, and perhaps they will even get to represent Europe for the World Championship.
It would certainly not be unwelcome to see such a dominant team. It's so refreshing, you know, to see it go to this level, to go to such a level that is actually probably going to be even in contention for the World Championship, which is what this is all counting down to. So massive congratulations to them. There's really not that much to say. They had a clean sweep against everybody, so it's kind of it's what you see is what you get. But now there is still the matter of 1 match remaining, and that is Team Buy versus Papiano. That is going to be quite impressive, given how exhilarating all the matches with Team Papiano have been thus far. I certainly expect great things from them, and especially since they have yet to actually fight Team Buy, this is going to be a very interesting match indeed.
And the crazy thing is, with the 8-set setup, it will be a bigger opportunity for both of these teams to get the win in the end. It was crazy enough that Goblin Spiders, even in that 8th set, managed to go flawless, not losing a single one. But Papiano, or rather Team Papiano, now having so much free time in terms of waiting it out, having some breathing room, knowing that, okay, Team Bai have lost that one, seeing their weaknesses as well. They're gonna come into this next match really out for blood and really wanting to secure their very own spot in those finals. But before we go to that matchup, we will be heading over to a 5-minute break. We'll return shortly.
It was kind of a dream to play esports.
Hello and welcome to the Blade and Soul Europe.
I wanted to compete in Korea. That was like my goal, in top of EU. And then I achieved that, and it was really exciting to be there.
To be honest, we didn't expect to win regionals. We were like, yo, we can actually do this.
That's what I mean, 10 out of being 10.
And it motivated us, and we like kept going, and we wanted to prove that we can stand our ground against people, right?
I just told myself I will be there one day. Looking up to good players in EU, I got better myself, got into the community and helped each other out, improved over time.
You learn more from a loss than from a win. Play to improve, not to win.
Get good, make a team, and have a great time with us.
It's a great experience.
To every player that has come this far, I have seen your commitment. I have seen your sacrifices. All of this. This is for you.
It is the last matchup for Europe's first preliminary for the Blade and Soul World Championship Qualification Tournament. Of course, I'm Burnge, joined by Barney, and coming up next, as said, with that last matchup, it will be between Team Bai, who just got knocked down to the losers bracket, versus Team Papiano.
Yes, and this is going to be quite an interesting matchup, I think. With the way that things have been going so far for both of these teams, they have shown themselves to be really quite dominant, and especially a massive shout out to Papiano as a whole for making history and being the first team to properly deny Bad Intentions even a second place finish in a tournament setting.
It's been an absolutely crazy run on both sides. Of course, Papiano, with that win, as he said, over Bad Intentions, will potentially secure their very own slot alongside Goblin Spiders for those finals that will be going on in Leicester, ESL UK studio at the 26th of August for a chance at not only a bunch of cash prizes, but also the opportunity to represent Europe at the World Championships. And we already know for the side of Team Papiano, Lukey is definitely very familiar with that setting as well. But since it is the losers bracket finals, it is going to be once again an 8-set matchup where we'll see a lot more action. And at this point, while yes, Team Bai was definitely steamrolled in a sense, if you will, by their opponents in the winners bracket finals, I would expect this one to be closer, Barney.
I would certainly hope so as well. There's so much opportunity for setting up insane plays. Zay still is probably fishing for that rather ridiculous Blade Master Wallbang combination, which is actually really strong. If you Searing Slash, Lunar Slash immediately afterwards, that's a lot of damage. So definitely want to be looking out for that one. I hope he actually lands it, because it would certainly be a wonderful spectacle to end on.
I mean, actually, after what he did to Ryuki in that 1v1, I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I blinked and it was over. So yeah, if you can manage to repeat that sort of thing at in the coming matchups, especially in those 3 versus 3s, immediately eliminate key players. Because Team Bai actually has such a good team composition, all their players actually contribute more or less an even amount. So getting rid of any of them is going to be a really big advantage for Papiano regardless. But Mr. Fragola as well showed against Team Bad Intentions that although he's not an assassin, he's not a destroyer, he's Warlock, and yet he still managed to stay in for an incredibly long time.
And now, as we will be moving on to the first 1v1 setup of the series, it will be, of course, between Ace5 for the side of Team Bai, who you thought perhaps was showing himself to be potentially the strongest 1v1 member, unless, at the very least for today, right?
For today, yes. I certainly think that being a gunner allows you to have a lot of 1v1 dominance. There are very few classes that can actually deal with a gunslinger super efficiently. Warlock can, but that's only assuming they manage to get an opening onto the gunslinger. And with how many tools a gunslinger has at their disposal, a guard break, a guard disable, defense parrying days number 2, it's a lot of stuff to keep track of, and it can certainly be very dangerous. But now Ace5 versus Zayn, this is going to be a wonderful matchup. There's the Blade Master buffs coming in, the parry timing actually forcing Ace5 to use his second wind already. Zayn in a convincing spot already, having to use his Flock of Blades, sure, but he has his second wind available.
We will see how effective he can really be.
Another deflect!
If you blink, it might just be over just like that. Zayn on point at this moment, as he will get the knockdown. He will get the stun again!
This guy! How do you keep... Okay, we're back to old Blade Master ground game, apparently. Don't you
know? Second win now finally forced out at the very least, but 35% is all Ace5 has left to his name, and Zayn so close to finishing this off. Oh, sorry, Falcon, attempting to re-engage. He gets the knockdown.
No way!
And he gets the launch and the finisher. Zayn again unstoppable in the 1v1s.
Someone stop this man. Put a leash on him. This is. Are we allowed to show this on Twitch? Is this against terms of service? This is risky business here. That was insane. And a crucially overlooked factor that BM got back. Remember that good old time and the level 45 patch, and a little bit afterwards as well, when level 50 was still a new time. It was pretty good for Blade Masters back then. They had a deflect on their block. They have it again. So be careful using get-up attacks, because Zayn already knows. He remembers. He knows all this. He just needs to think back to that time. Get-up attacks are so dangerous against Blade Masters now, because it's a free parry every single time, and it's so devastating. 4 times Ace5 was parried in that fight.
It's unfortunate. And another thing that could come into play is the fact that Team Bai just came off of an 8-set series already, and now going into another one already at the first loss. This could be coming into play, you know, tournament fatigue, of course, as well, and Papiano having that extra break time, having a shot of also scouting out maybe valuable information against Team Bai. It's going to be proving great for them, as next up, it's actually going to be the Destroyer Mirror matchup, and we've seen how exceptional Lukey has been at those.
Yeah, the fact that he beat Mr. B, that alone is a lot of psychological pressure to have to deal with. So we'll have to see how Colorize manages to deal with that in particular. Who knows? Maybe he'll have an even better time.
We'll see. As so far, it's gonna be the stun actually connecting onto Lukey. So far, things looking good for Colorize. But again, we've seen how much back and forth there is between these two in terms of, or rather just in terms of the mirror matchup with this particular class. As so far, the stun will connect onto Lukey. Colorize having a really good time. Gust was used as well. Only persistence left available on the side of Lukey, who manages to get the grab off. But overall, things will still be looking pretty good for Colorize. The question is, how will he use his respective defensive? So far, forced to use none, even getting that reflex will punish. But now with the persistence coming into play for Lukey, a lot of damage was dealt. Lukey still keeping his head cool, still in the game, will stay alive with the use of that Seeing Strike or that extra iframe too. Spinning to win is the name of the game for both of these, as so far the Ember Stomp is gonna keep Colorize safe. And with that, enough time was bought by Lukey to stay alive as well, but he did use that Gust. Oh.
Yeah, it's looking a bit worse for him than it did in the previous Destroy mirror matches, with no escapes up on him, and Ember Stomp now is, pardon me, so exciting, you know? But with Ember Stomp now finally down, he is in a very, very rough spot. If Colorize goes in on this, it's going to be very bad, and it does look as though he'll just finish him off with a single bash to the head.
And with that, Team Y definitely not going to be out of the tourney just yet, retaliating with a point on the board, equalizing it up 1-1. Bringing us to our first 3 versus 3 with a 1-1 score line overall, and definitely showing us that, okay, while things haven't looked as great in the last series, in this matchup, definitely looking still as strong as ever.
It's a bit surprising, though, that Lukey managed to win against Mr. B, but not against Colorized, whom many would actually place him below Mr. B, I would think. But instead, Colorize showing why he is still a dominant force to be reckoned with, and also very, very beneficial. He gives a point back to his team, which is the most important thing. The more points you have early on, the less stressful it will be later on.
And it's still interesting to note the fact that Lukey could potentially pull out the Blade Master himself at any point if he chooses to do just so. Of course, in the 1v1 department, as you cannot rule with the same class in a tag team matchup, which is going to be coming up next. But we've seen that for Team Buy, they prefer to get somebody like Ace 5 at the start in the 3 versus 3 setting. For Papiano, who do you expect to bring out, for them to bring out?
Well, the safest option would, of course, be the Warlock. Starting with a Bastion and then fishing for a Tether Blade is pretty much uncounterable. Or at the very least, even if you do manage to block the Tether Blade, you can't actually do anything to the Warlock because they still have Bastion for 5 seconds. However, starting with Zayn might actually be a very, very good idea. If they're not expecting it, if they're not prepared for it, a Soaring Falcon into Searing Slash to start the round off, going down to something like losing 40% of your health in an instant is pretty good. Well, Papiano at least, certainly not for Bai, but I would actually think that Zayn might want to lead the charge. It would definitely be better for him because then the Warlock would be able to jump in, reset his cooldowns with that time distortion, and of course, teammate of Lukey will be readily available to come in and save him with Iron Plating should that be required. It's probably better than relying on the Blade Master to come in and save, because although Winged Protector is now better than Blade Dancer's Sword Shroud, it's still not that good. So definitely the Iron Plating is better for that in almost all circumstances, I would think.
That just allows this particular team setup to have a little bit more flexibility, perhaps, in terms of their play style, and we'll see how things will open up in the first 3 versus 3 of the losers bracket finals. It's going to be an interesting one. Who will take the lead? Big time, 2 points on the board. If you win this 3 versus 3, it's going to be Ace 5 versus Zay, as predicted by our wonderful analyst, Barney.
Hey, it feels good to not be completely just ruined by Caster's Curse, but yeah, we saw how this went in a 1 versus 1 scenario. Hopefully, Ace 5 doesn't get himself deflected several times in a row this time. But Zay with the beautiful blindside into Flicker stun. Ace 5 is already so low. I mean, it's Colorize tried to help, but where was the Iron Plating? He definitely needed to put that out. Now Zay actually sitting fairly comfortably. The Warlock comes in, from both sides, actually. Kind of more or less even, but Searing Slash is currently down for Zay. If he gets launched into the air, it'll be very, very bad. Decides not to chance it and switches into Lukey. It's not much of a better matchup, honestly.
At the very least, though, he was kind of forced into that situation, not having those defensives up. And now in the mirror matchup, we'll see what they can do, especially now with this assist. Could be a lot of damage coming in, especially since the Shadow build is actually the choice here. However, the Iron Plating with the use of that Stone Shield is going to keep Colorize safe for a while. Now with the Persistence being put into play, we'll see what he can do to make sure he gets somehow an advantage in his favor, because on the other side, Lukey's still having both of his defensives is going to be pretty good and nicely timed there to make sure he capitalizes off of Mew's tagging. And now with Fragola in as well, this could be very dangerous. Off into the wall, Mew dropping pretty low. Even air launch now. It's going to be Lukey who takes a lot of damage instead. So back and forth on both sides. Zayn with the assist took a lot of damage too. So Papiano might be in big trouble.
Yeah, the assist was maybe worth it. It saved Lukey's life. He actually saved it with Warding Spirit from Flock of Blades, which is very, very rare to see it used that way. But it certainly still allows their teammates to be alive, which means that they'll have more opportunities to regain health down the line. And that's all they really need. Out comes Time Distortion for Fragola. He needs to try and find an opening onto Ace 5, but it's just so difficult with the amount of movement abilities that Gunslinger has at their disposal.
Oh, and now with the reset coming in as well, it's just going to make things that much easier. Fragola now is forced to tag out, but Lukey's going to take a lot of punishment for his trouble. And now with the assist from Zay, he's going to be able to do a little bit of extra CCs onto his opponent, force Ace 5 to disengage instead of playing aggressive. Also allows Lukey to heal up just a bit, but now all of a sudden, we'll see what Lukey can do to really pull out a win here, because he does have that Fury, so a lot of damage could be coming in. He actually pops it, so looks for that re-engage, but no, gets dodged up by Ace 5, finally finds an opening, but it's not going to be quite there. It's not going to be enough. Seeing Strike will keep him safe, but without that tab escape, yes, he does have that Ember Stone, but he might be forced to tag out here for Team Papiano.
Yeah, Lukey is recovering health quite nicely though, but he does get guard broken by that Gunner, forced immediately to tag out into Fragola. Lukey has regained some amount of health, but Zay is still very, very low, and with no assist left on Zay, but no tagouts left on Lukey, it's not an optimal situation to be in when Team Bai has all of their, well, at least unassist on everybody and at least one tagout on everyone. Now, of course, Ace 5 will be saying goodbye to the battlefield in about 2 seconds. Tagging into Mew and the Warlock mirror match. The instant Bastion upon entry prevented Fragola from actually getting too much off, but he is still chunking him down slowly but surely. There is the onrush into Leash, but Lukey is on it today. And oh my god! What? Okay, Execute is really good. Execute is undoubtedly good. That might have been what they needed, but unfortunately for Lukey, he paid for that damage with his life. I'm not sure that was worth it in the slightest.
Especially since Colorize and Ace 5 are both so healthy now. Time Distortion was used by Fragola to just allow him to stay alive, but again, it's not looking too hot for Team Papiano. No assists available for Zay. Means that Fragola might be forced to tag out after he uses those defensive cooldowns. Now with Ace 5 still dancing around with the use of that Sky Stones, we'll just play it safe. Alpha Call available as well. And this is just not looking good for Team Papiano.
Oh, but Ace 5 does get deflected by Mr. Fragola, which forces him to use his Alpha Call escape. Now, he will have his real escape back in some time, but with the ultimate up, he actually does use the Flash Blind. So, Zay now trying his best to live through anything and everything that comes his way, but unfortunately for him, Haze Bomb doesn't really care about Warding Spirit, and now gets unloaded upon and finally dies as he falls to the ground. Yeah, Team Bai is in a dominating position here.
It's very important to pick up this win too. This will grant them 2 more points on the board. It's the first team to 6 to win and secure themselves a second spot towards that final tournament. But Fragola looking to retaliate. It's gonna force out that Stone Shield, but no, the Shadow Destroyer coming in for that final kill onto Fragola.
That is a truly brutal skill. I'm not sure it needed to be that good, but it is. It is what it is, and it's really good. Both sides utilizing it as often as they possibly can, because there's really no reason not to. With its incredibly short cooldown of 30 seconds, its incredibly fast cast time, and the addition of its damage, it's a no-brainer, really. But the unfortunate thing that happened there, Lukey, although he was quick on his fingers to react to his teammate needing him, he wasn't quick enough to save himself from the barrage that came afterwards, which is kind of where it started to fall apart a bit. Even though Zayn managed to pull off some really, really cool stunts at the beginning of the match, when you're in such a dire situation, going up against several members at the same time, it's really, really hard to avoid everything as a Blade Monster.
And at this point, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop further, because as the third 1v1, it's going to be the Wizard Battles, the mirror matchup, or rather the other mirror matchup, which is going to be between the two Warlocks, which will be Fragola versus Mew. And I haven't seen much of them in those 1v1 setups, because most of the time, of course, if you're Papiano, you want to send out Zayn on that Blade Master for a good reason. He just showed us time and time again why that is the case. Same here for Team Bai. Ace 5 and Colorize have proven to be very lethal themselves. But in this mirror matchup, since we haven't seen it too much as of late, what are you going to expect to see out of these two players here?
It's a bit of a toss-up, really. Fragola has the more experience, I feel. He's been around for a bit longer, but they're both really, really good. And the way that they play against the other teams, I would probably have to give the advantage to Fragola, simply because since they've now faced off against Bad Intentions and beaten them, that is now the point of comparison to be making. So although they did struggle quite a bit in that 3 versus 3, there are still plenty more matches to come. And if they get a good lead in the 1 versus 1s, it just means that they have less effort to expend during the latter 3 versus 3s.
Because of course you don't want to be at a point where you're going to be forced to play 2 more potentially, especially since Team Bai has proven themselves to be exceptional at that 3 versus 3 setup. And now going into this one, well, yes, it's still 1 point. It's still going to be closer to that same amount where Team Bai still has 3 on the board. It's going to get them potentially to a 3-2. But if you are Team Bai, another win on the board with those 1v1s is going to be great, because at that point, all you need is 1 more win in the 3 versus 3 department, and you've already proven that you have a really good shot at making that a reality.
Yes, indeed. But of course, since the 3 versus 3s are worth 2 points and the 1 versus 1s are only worth 1 point, it's certainly going to be useful nonetheless. We're going into this match, as you say, Mew versus the other one. For some reason, that slipped my mind. There's just so much excitement today. That's the one, of course. The legend, the trackpad legend. I'm so sorry, Fragola. Please forgive me. But in this matchup, it's definitely, it comes up to the opener. If you get the Tether Blade first, you're going to be really, really good. But neither of them seem to be going for anything too big. And the Tether Blade from Mew actually does end up missing. Fragola does get hit by the Imprison. Both Thralls are up. The excitement of watching 2 Thralls hit each other. Hurrah!
Of course, always a sight to behold, as we actually see Mew have quite a bit of a problem right now. But as I said, that he does manage to find that connection off of the Thrall onto Fragola, dropping him to about 63%, looking better on his end. The Thralls are going to time out soon enough. Fragola, I'm not sure if he's going to actually opt in to use that time distortion. No, we'll try to play it safer. But at this point, not having any defensives up, this could be a very good shot here, or rather opportunity for Mew to capitalize.
Oh, it would be, but Fragola still has Leech, and he still has his Tether Blade. This is really, really bad. If he lands that Leech, Mew is almost certainly dead. He uses it, but unfortunately, it's not too successful. Now, trading damage, but Mew on the receiving end, definitely not expecting to be hit so much within the time distortion.
It was just, at that point, Fragola knowing that, okay, I have the advantage. Now, managed to go in, save his leech after the use of that time distortion, I believe, to finish off the job. And even though, yes, we did see Mew pop that Bastion to get his fall up and try to get time distortion available for himself to save him, it was not quite enough. It was rather most definitely not enough. And with that, it's going to bring us closer to a tie, 3-2 now in the scoreline.
If Papiano can win this next 1-versus-1, then they will have tied up the scoreboard. And then everything rests on the 3-versus-3s. That's going to be pretty intense. So far, matches haven't been quite to the level of Papiano versus Bad Intentions. That's definitely going on the highlight reel for sure. But for now, definitely they need to compose themselves, prepare themselves for that 3-versus-3, make sure that at least they can win in the 1-versus-1s where they seem to be a bit stronger, especially if we look back to the first match in this entire set, which was Zayn versus Ace 5. That was just complete destruction, borderline abusive. So we probably won't get to see Zayn in many more 1-versus-1s, but we will get to see Ace 5 go up against Lukey in this next match. What do you think about that?
Well, it's important to note, first of all, that this fourth 1v1 is where both of these teams have a chance at sending out anyone again. So, of course, you want to send out your strongest player and the one you'd think would have the best shot against what the opponent would be bringing out. So, in one sense, I am somewhat surprised that they're not sending out Colorize again, but as you said previously, in your opinion at least, and I do have to agree with it, Ace 5 has been playing really, really good today, so can't be too surprised that they're going to select him as the one to come out here. It's going to be an important one because Team Bai, if they get the point win here, they only need one more 3-versus-3 win to secure the series, and it's actually the Shadow build, Barney.
Yes, boy! Look at that damage! Look at the damage from the Shadow build. This is look, people, get on it. Get on it. You just take this as an example of why it's so good. He's got 100% health, 3% on Lukey. He's forced to use his persistence immediately. All right, 100% health is gone now. That's a bit of a shame, but the Undertaker is, unfortunately for Ace 5, completely blockable. So Lukey managed to block it with his shield. If he hadn't, he would have most certainly died. And the Moonshine is so good, but it's just, it's such a strong build and people don't realize it. Your basic attacks do far more damage than they do in the Fire build, and especially you still have Unload, does the same damage, but Undertaker's on a 12-second cooldown with no prerequisites. Why would you not do that? Thank you.
Well, I mean, you've been praising that build, and it's, again, for a good reason. Perfect demonstration as to why that is the case, and that was, as said, a very important win for Team Bai, because if you're now in the position to go towards that next 3-versus-3 with a match point advantage, you're going to be sitting very comfortably. Not only did you already win the first 3-versus-3 in this match, you just need one more. So even if you lose the next one, you're going to be okay. As long as they keep their composure, should be still good to go in terms of having a very good shot at winning the losers bracket finals.
I think I may have erred slightly. I do think Shadow Unload is actually a little bit weaker than Fire Unload. Point is, it's still really great. And the one thing that is completely correct is that Tombstone is a shorter cooldown. I've mentioned it before. More opportunities to be completely invincible, and any attack you perform that lands on the enemy will completely disable their charge skills for 6 seconds. That's pretty good. But as you say, Team Bai is now in a fairly commanding position. Since they've the one thing that I would have expected Papiano to be best at, especially based on the performance against Bad Intentions, would have been those 1-versus-1 scenarios. But Ace 5 and well, Colorize as well, they've all been showing themselves to be actually quite competent. Although Ace 5 had a really rough start against Zayn, he certainly has made it back up. And now, because of that victory, Team Bai are actually on match point.
It's, again, as said, that was very, very important. And it's really interesting to see them. Perhaps you can argue that was a gamble Of course, going for the more, at the very least for now, unorthodox build with that Shadow Gunslinger. But into this next 3v3, Papiano need to pull out all the punches. They need to win the next 2 3v3 if they are to advance, and of course pick up that second spot for those finals that will be happening on the 26th of August. And it's been such an insane run for both of these teams, really, and all of the teams in the tournament. So many awesome stories, and of course it's not going to be over for either of these teams, whether it's Papiano who goes out or the side of Team Bai. They still have another shot with the second preliminary tournament, but it's been absolutely insane, Barney.
Oh, it absolutely has. Like I said a little bit earlier, if the Prelim 2 tournament is even half as good as this one, you need to like strap into your seats, Buster, because that's going to be some pretty intense gameplay. I hope to see many of these teams return. I hope to see Bad Intentions have a second shot at things. I hope to see as well Team No Fake. They also had a pretty good run. $20 is $20, and all the others as well had some pretty good runnings. It was a little bit of a shame that a team Can't Be Asked, to be honest, they didn't quite make it through to actually participate in many matches at all. But that's Jiro's team, so they also have some pretty impressive things up their sleeves.
And not only that, another thing to look out for potentially for that second preliminary tournament will be that Soul Fighter, as you said. You've been pretty vocal about how effective you really think it can be, and it's for a good reason. I mean, you were on point with the Shadow build, Gunslinger 2, but Barney, 26 seconds, and we're gonna head into what could very well be the last series of the tournament, last set of the tournament.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one for sure. Papiano need this victory in order to tie things up, and even then, they would need to win 2 in a row in order to actually close the game out, which is, well, that's a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure on them to perform, especially with how the previous 3v3 went. They need to try to stay alive longer and maybe not underestimate their opponents. Seems what's been happening here.
Oh, but it's not the Shadow build, it's the Fire build. The burst could very well be there, but Zay coming in will be the savior here for Fragola. So he will manage to stay safe, and on the other side, nothing else expended by Team Bai, but that might be a problem now, as Ace 5 will take quite a bit of damage. At least that Skystone will be able to stay safe too, but Fragola, never mind, the time distortion is there, but no! What? In the meantime, we see Lukey come in and absolutely executes Ace 5. Talk about being obliterated, but it's not over yet. Fragola, we can't really have any breaks because he was down to 30%, but at this point, that is a landslide of an advantage if I've ever seen one.
Goodness me, look at what they're doing here. They have certainly learned from their mistakes, and now they're just swarming Team Bai, completely unfazed by anything. Swaps into Lukey. If he has Fury, he'll have it up in just a few seconds. A singular execute from Fury might just actually kill him outright. He's looking for it. He's fishing for it. He wants it so badly. With the red spin, he catches him. A flock of blades, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The execute comes out anyway. Wow. Now that's some real synergy right there. That was the cleanest and quickest 3v3. Second quickest 3v3 that we have had today. So yeah, when Ace 5 just has to be sitting there thinking, how could this happen to me? I've made my mistakes.
He had nowhere to run. Well, at this point, they still are in it. It's still match point. But
it's still match point, but for everyone now. This one's for all the marbles. And there are many of them. Securing a spot now means that they do not need, and for that matter can't, even if they wanted to, participate in the second preliminary tournament. But having that spot secured along with Goblin Spiders, I'm so used to calling them Goblin Speddles, it kind of slipped out a bit towards the end there. But having that position secured as well, along with them, is going to be a very, very very good thing. It means we won't get to see them until the actual date of the finals, but I'm not sad about this. They've given us a heck of a show. I can only wish them all the best. All the best to Team Bai, to Papiano. May the better team win.
And it's definitely going to come down to that, as we will be moving on to the final set of the night, final set of the tournament at that too. And whoever wins this one is going to emerge victorious. And seeing what just happened, if you're Team Bai, how are you going to keep your composure? What are you going to do, Barney, in this next one?
Ooh, it's well, maybe not a repeat of either of the 3 versus 3s that have occurred thus far for Team Bai and Team Papiano. Both times, one of their key pivotal players has been destroyed almost instantaneously. So it's going to be a bit challenging to keep people alive, especially with the amount of things that can happen all at once, with the alpha calls coming out, with the time distortions from both sides, and then Zay coming in as the wild card. So you definitely need to keep an eye out on all those things.
Even though calling Zay the wild card, I think really is not even necessarily the case, because it has been consistent all throughout. I don't think he has had a really bad showing at any point. It's been exceptional, and we'll see if he can keep up that performance as in this next one. I wouldn't expect too many changes on both sides, but rather just for the side of Team Bai, for them to be better prepared against what could happen again.
Definitely. And with how things went in that last match, if Team Papiano can replicate that even slightly, well, that kind of speaks for itself what the result of that would be.
I mean, at this point, it's just insane. And it's crazy to think that, on one hand, this is pretty much Team Papiano's first tournament showing at that, and to have such a strong synergy and showing right from the get-go is definitely impressive. And yes, while they do have the players to show that that is possible, it's crazy to see how much they've also improved, not only on the individual level, but also playing together as a unit.
It's interesting to note, actually, that Zay had an opportunity to be in a tournament setting before. He actually tried to attend last year's regionals, but unfortunately, one of his teammates couldn't get a visa in time, and so they were unable to participate as a result of that, which is very unfortunate, because if we had seen this back then, well, he might have dethroned a certain Blade Master who's on his team right now a little bit sooner than he did.
That was to be debated, of course, but like there was unfortunately a potential issue in that last round. So currently we're trying to figure out whether or not we will have a need for a rematch. That's still in the works, so nothing confirmed as of yet. But if that is the case, that's going to be somewhat heartbreaking for for the side of Team Papiano, of course, without, we don't have to specify why that would be the case. But considering how fast that ended, I wouldn't be surprised if we might actually need that rematch.
Well, it was a little bit, I want to say it looked a little bit suspect, but with the classes that are actually at play here, it's actually completely possible that was completely intentional. But should the need arise, that would actually be a rather big and unfortunate setback for Papiano, and they would once again be forced into this much more strenuous situation of having to play yet another 3 versus 3 match afterwards.
That would be, as said, pretty crushing. But if they don't get faced by it, that's still going to be good, because they've proven time and time again that they are a strong team no matter what. Even when it comes to the 1v1s, the 3 versus 3, it doesn't matter. And I can definitely see them being capable of winning 2 additional 3 versus 3s back to back. It would be a big challenge still, considering their opponents in Team Bai, which have definitely had a rough time in terms of the winners bracket finals, but looked much better and much more akin to what we're used to out of them so far in this lower bracket final.
Thinking about the task that they have ahead of them is making me exhausted. I really do wish them all the best, but it's such a difficult scenario to find oneself in. Even if they don't have the rematch, they still have another 3 versus 3 to win, both of them. And that's very, very difficult. So it's a bit of a toss-up at the moment. Again, wouldn't be upset with any of these teams being chosen to represent us in the World Championship. They're so rock solid. It would be very interesting to see during the finals one of these two teams fight off against Team Goblin Spiders, because they have been, as of yet, undefeated. So it would certainly be an interesting streak to break. I wish them all the best.
Scary factor when it comes to the finals eventually will be the fact that Goblin Spiders alongside Bad Intentions are arguably, or rather not, it's actually Goblin Spiders who are probably the most experienced in the LAN setting, because actually Bad Intentions didn't get to go to the wildcard tournament last year for Europe. So that's going to be an extra thing that will come into account for sure, because having that extra practice and experience will really pay off. Whereas, of course, on the side of Team Buy, for instance, you have Colorize, who did have plenty of experience during last year's regionals. He is still the only member that had as much of experience in that setting, so that could also come into play. But sometimes we've seen players really shine in that setting, even more so compared to the online setting. So a lot of things can happen. It seems like there will be no rematch, so it is match point, but for both of these teams.
Yeah, that's definitely a big sigh of relief for Papiano. If they needed to actually win that same match again, that would have just been very demoralizing. Being put into that situation is quite unfortunate for them. But since it is going to be the game point, we'll have to see how they manage to step things up a little bit this time around. Maybe they can repeat the same thing that they did in the previous 3 versus 3. Tombstone already active. Fraga getting quite a bit of damage onto him, but he's not phased by it too much. Alpha Core used. Leech is used as well, forcing Ace5 to use his Alpha Core escape. And now, getting quite a bit of damage onto the Thrall, but really not enough to have any sort of real impact. Ace5 trying to hide back, find an opening, gets one, but Fragola manages to evade too much damage. His teammate in Lukey comes in, drags Ace5 back, forcing a reflex roll, and now the Tether Blade comes out. Ace5 gets caught again, actually, but the time distortion from his ally is there to reset his all-important second wind cooldown. If he got caught again, he would have been dead. But now,
speaking of dead, barely Fragola is managing to stay alive, tags out, but that was so dangerous for him. And now Zayn looking for an opening himself, so having that tap escape, of course. Alpha Call now committed by Ace5. He has another shot out, making out of the CC chain potentially, but not for too long, as Zayn so far is able to dish out so much damage himself, actually dropping Ace5 to 30%. Colorized, the bro that he is, comes in again as the savior, but only having 1 assist left is going to be looking really good for Papiano now all of a sudden.
Yes, you must remember that, of course, whenever a Blade Master manages to block an attack, he recovers health, and it was actually quite useful. Unfortunately, tagging into Fragolo is a bit of a mistake, but he's actually using the untargetability Sanctum, which is very, very timely, I think. Now, Mew caught as well by that Imprison. He needs to be very, very, very careful. In comes... Oh my god, Zay comes in with the Deflect Assist and the Winged Protector, trying to get an opening for his teammate there. That was absolutely just ridiculous. In comes Lukey with that Fury at the ready, and the Execute as well, no doubt. If he manages to land even a single one of those, it's going to be devastating. I do believe Colorize is also using it, and he is. It's really hard to tell who's winning this exchange, if I'm honest. It's just Destroyer things. But now teammates coming in as well, trying to help them out as much as possible. Colorized kind of a little bit on the losing end of that one. Already forcing to use his persistence there. Lukey sitting fairly comfortably, given that he actually is using Fury. He's actually sitting quite comfortable. He'll have his gust up fairly soon, but he's launching to the air. Ace5 comes in. Ooh, actually, Colorize getting quite a bit of return damage, because that Zay assist is actually a lot better than people give it credit for. That Winged Protector grants untargetability, it should be noted. And now Zay is in himself. See how it goes.
He still has all those important cooldowns, but now launched up into the air. He's unable to do too much damage here for Mew, as we did see that keep him alive. But now with the time distortion, this could be dangerous. Forcing out that tap escape, even with the assist now coming in from the side of Lukey. He's gonna be the tag out. Fragola is gonna be out, actually doing a lot of damage onto the Frawl, but managing to stay alive means that Fragola could be in quite a bit of trouble himself too. However, that escape is available on the red hand side of that Warlock for Fragola, but coming in, Ace5 manages to get the aerial, a lot of damage, so much damage with that rapid fire, and now Fragola again looking really badly in this matchup. No! What?
Did he just walk up slowly and unload him? That's very unfortunate, given that he had 2 assists on him. No, oh, but now Ace5 in a really, really bad spot. Unfortunately, the only person with assists left is the one that's now dead. Lukey unable to get too much off of that one. Colorized with only 1 assist remaining. Mew with no tag outs. Did Lukey just... Okay, Lukey got instantly stunned there. That was a bit unfortunate, but now against Ace5, it's really, really not a great spot to be in for him. Even since he is still... he is actually using the regular build now, but he is forced to tag out into Zay, who might have a slightly better chance. Now with the ultimate, he wants to catch him as much as possible, but he actually gets himself caught against the wall instead!
That could be it. So much damage is going to come in through. Actually, even tried to use the ultimate there, I think, Ace5, but it's going to be Zay. Well, again, he's not down and out just yet, retaliating himself. 37% HP left here now for Colorize. Zay looking to stay alive, looking to be the hero for his team. Actually having that flock of blades is going to keep him safe from that grab. The shadow damage, or rather the damage coming in from the shadow built destroyer here for Colorize is going to be somewhat decent, but knowing the fact that he still has to play somewhat safe, we'll see what he's going to be able to do. Mew still has to assist, so you got to give the advantage over the side of Bai, but now Papiano coming back in with Zay still somehow in this. If he scores a kill onto Colorize, that's massive.
He somehow avoided the entire duration of the ultimate by being in it. Now he's caught Ace5 out. He desperately needs this Warlock assist. Zay is looking to be in a lot of trouble. He's probably going to go down the crossfire, and the dimensional salvo is just too much to bear. Ah, if only they had their own Warlock still. Now Lukey faced in a 1v3 situation. Almost insurmountable. Ace5 launching him into the air. He doesn't have crossfire, but he'll have it soon enough. This looks so grim.
Only 35%. I mean, he doesn't have that gust available. He has persistence, but it's gonna be such a tough ask of him. I can't see how that's gonna happen, but this is a lot on the line here. Can Team Bai close this one out? Still trying to disengage. It's gonna be Lukey who gets to re-engage instead. Assist still available, though, of course, for the side of Team Bai, and with that, it's gonna be the time distortion coming through. Lukey caught up, but he will continue to spin. He cannot win off of it, though, as we will see Ace5 close the series out. Team Bai are your second qualified team for those LAN finals. But what a showing here tonight.
Very, very well played. Well deserved as well. They showed their technical prowess. And although both teams are so great when it comes to just fighting each other, it's still not over. It's still not over for Papiano, because they can come back in the Prelim 2 tournament. I hope they do. I hope they get as far or even further than they did in this time around. August 3rd, August 4th. Definitely hope to see them back again. I need more of that ridiculous Blade Master in my life. The fact that you make it look so much better than it probably has any right to be. It's very refreshing. So commiserations to Papiano. You got very far, and you made history in the process. You managed to beat out Bad Intentions, but because of the unfortunate thing that you didn't quite close it out this time around, you'll have to, if you come back during Prelim 2, you might have to face Bad Intentions a second time, and I think there will be quite a big grudge to settle there.
But still, congratulations to Team Goblin Spiders and Team Bai for securing their respective spots for those finals. And gotta keep in mind, Goblin Spiders so far haven't lost a single set throughout the tournament. I mean, talk about looking unstoppable. And Team Bai, I gotta commend them for the fact that, especially here during the winners bracket and losers bracket finals, they did those back to back. It was a longer match at that too, once we got into the 8th set, and somehow they still kept their composure after all of those things and still brought it back in their favor there at the end. So huge props to all of these teams, especially the ones who didn't make it as far as well. There's a lot of good names that will surely impress us further on in that second preliminary tournament, what will happen for Europe on August 1st to 4th, of course, and then we will get 2 extra teams to participate for those finals, for not only a chance at more cash prizes, but also the opportunity to represent Europe at the World Championships. So it's going to be exciting. Of course, that is not going to be it in terms of amazing Blade and Soul esports action. Later, we will be having the finals of the first prelim tournament over on the North American side of things, which will be happening at 2 p.m. PDT. And of course, once again, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all of you guys coming in here, representing also your favorite teams. I saw a lot of love for those amazing plays by Zay. I think Barney maybe has a new favorite, maybe.
Step sad. Zappa's ship time is done here. But definitely, as you say, the teams played amazingly. I wish to see all of them come back to try their hand a second time. Even more teams, if possible. Just come in, just give it a shot. Just do your best. There were teams that I want CBA, TBH to come back. I want them to have a big showing. I want Jira to have, like, you know, to actually be part of everything again. $20 is $20. Very good. Paramount, no slouches either, and of course no fake as well. Magic Warriors, Glacier, you know, I hope he managed to have a bit of a better streak of luck this time. But overall, I do think that will wrap things up rather nicely.
Of course, once again, also huge shout outs to the broadcasting team and everyone involved, making sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. Huge claps for them. They did a wonderful job. Of course, make sure to follow Blade and Soul on all of the social platforms to keep in touch with all of the upcoming updates, as well as everything in terms of the esports scene. You can also check that out directly at esports.bladeandsoul.com. And of course, if you missed out on any of the action, all of the VODs will be uploaded on the official YouTube channel for Blade and Soul. Once again, my name is Boom Brunch, joined by Barney, and we will see you guys next time. Until then, keep your eyes out for the North American finals.
And if L'Oreal, you want to sponsor me, you know, that's fine. Just give me a sponsorship. It's fine. Just give me a
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to our Blade and Soul European tournament. We'll be doing NA's tournament later in just a few hours, so stay tuned for that. But as always, give us a good follow right here on this Twitch channel so you don't miss out on any of the action. If you're watching over on YouTube as well, subscribe to the channel and Facebook as well. We'll be keeping you guys notified and updated at Twitter on @BNS Esports, so be sure to give us a follow on that channel. And while we wait for our next tournament, we're going to give a little enemy raid over to Alchemy Yeti. Amazing streamer in the Blade and Soul community, so shout out and give some love to Alchemy Yeti. Join up in our raid, and we will see you guys in just a couple hours for the NA Championship Tournament.